We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's tonight, 9 till 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, very nice to see you. 6 o'clock. It's a Monday morning, the start of a new day, start of a new week, 29th of January. Breakfast on GB News. Thanks for tuning in with Eamonn and Isabel.
Yeah, welcome to the programme. Here's what's leading the news this morning. The government's Rwanda bill returns to the House of Lords today, yet migration shows no sign of abating as GB News can report 350 people crossed the channel this weekend alone. Olivia Utley has more.
Prime Minister is facing yet another showdown today as his Rwanda bill continues its bumpy progress through the House of Lords. Will this flagship policy ever make it to the statute book?
Joe Biden has vowed to retaliate after 3 American service personnel were killed in an Iran-backed drone attack in Jordan. It comes as Donald Trump warns the US is on the brink of World War III.
Disposable vapes, they're set to be banned in a new bid to protect children's health. We'll be speaking to the Health Secretary, Victoria Atkins, about it at the end of the hour.
2 teenage boys stabbed to death in Bristol over the weekend. That's after an FA Cup match was suspended over violence. Have we become a nation defined by lawlessness? Debating that throughout the programme. Your views welcome.
And Paul Coit is joining us with all your sport this morning.
I tell you what, the cricket was great. Did you see the cricket? The cricket was unbelievable. Amazing win for England and India. Newport give Manchester United a game, and also one for Isabel. Her favourite tennis supporters, the Carota boys, are very happy because Yannick Sinner won the Australian Open yesterday.
Good. The weather, is it a winner? Here's Greg.
Hello there, good morning. There is a 3-way split in the weather today. Find out all the details of the weather where you are coming up in the programme.
So this migration story just not going away. Hundreds more people, 350 of them over the weekend. What is going to be done? Is there enough political resolve in this whole situation? It won't suddenly disappear. So what do you think should be done about it? Let us know.
Yes, so the total's reached over 1,000 since January the 1st, and the House of Lords today will be debating again the government's safety of Rwanda bill later this afternoon.
GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley, let's go to her. She will tell us more. Olivia, good morning.
Morning. Yeah, the House of Lords is set to have its second reading of the Rwanda bill today, and there are 70 peers who are listed to speak, including the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Bishop of London. What we are very much expecting is to hear a slating from the Lords of the Rwanda bill. Lords will say that it's not safe and that Rwanda can't be labelled as a safe country, and that this legislation would go too far towards breaking international law. And they've got some ammunition for those comments, because the president of the European Court of Human Rights has said, at total odds with what Rishi Sunak has said, that this legislation simply is not compatible with European human rights law. That is what those peers will use later today in order to try as hard as they can to amend this bill so that by the time it gets back to the Commons are voting on something very different. Now, ultimately, we know that the House of Commons and the government can vote down amendments that the Lords make to this bill. The Commons have the ultimate say over what happens with this. But it's all going to take a very long time. And time is something that Rishi Sunak really, really doesn't have. Of course, we're expecting an election in the second half of this year. But also, Rishi Sunak has said that it's his aim to get planes off the ground to Rwanda by the spring. And the timetable for the House of Lords debate on this bill takes us all the way up to the 12th of March. That's when they're set to have the vote on whether or not to ratify this bill. That leaves a very, very slim margin for Rishi Sunak to meet his own target. And in the meantime, as GB News has been reporting, boatloads of migrants are coming over to these shores, and the processing time for them is over a year, on average 465 days. There is a real urgency to this situation. Rishi Sunak has said that he will stop the boats. At the moment, this is his main plan, to stop the boats, and for now, it doesn't look like it's going to have smooth progress through Parliament.
OK.
Do you know what I think, Olivia? I think people are completely fed up of this now, and they're zoning out, and they look at politicians, whatever hue, whatever party, and they say, why aren't you doing what we want?
Well, I think that's another problem that Rishi Sunak is facing. There is just fatigue with all of this. He's said over and over again that he's planning to stop the boats. And I think one problem, which I've heard from a lot of Conservative MPs, is that Rishi Sunak has made this Rwanda policy, which was always going to be very, very controversial, which was always going to have a tough time getting through the Lords. He has made this his flagship policy on stopping illegal migration. And I've spoken to Conservative MPs who've said that actually Rishi Sunak hasn't done a bad job of stopping illegal migration. In 2023 compared to 2022, there were 30% fewer small boat crossings, partly to do with the weather, but also partly to do with the Prime Minister's deal with the Albanian government. But instead of sort of shouting about that, Rishi Sunak has been talking a lot about this Rwanda policy. And as you say, Eamonn, that leads to fatigue within the country. It feels as though nothing is being done and people feel fed up.
Yeah, and a lot of people think it's a distraction from the true dilemma, which is, getting net migration down, legal migration, much more problematic in terms of numbers, and most of those coming in through our universities. But the Prime Minister's heading to a school this morning, and a big announcement for him, he's banning disposable vapes.
Yeah, he's banning disposable vapes, these cheap, they're on average £3 vapes, those colourful vapes that you see in the window, because he is worried that children are getting hooked. And the stats bear that out. Something like 17% of under 18s have used a disposable vape in the last few weeks, I think it is. And so he's cracking down on these disposable vapes. And at the same time, of course, he's got his smoking ban. And his smoking ban is turning out to be pretty controversial under the terms of what the government is trying to implement. Teenagers now, anyone who is under the age of 15 now, would never be able to legally smoke. So the legal age of smoking will essentially get higher year on year. And he's facing a backlash from Conservative MPs over that. Liz Truss, among other libertarians, say that it's a ridiculous situation that in a few years' time, adults will have different rights based purely on their birth dates. So they want to amend this legislation just to make the smoking age at 21 or higher, full stop. Now, Rishi Sunak's ban both on disposable vapes and on smoking looks set to pass in the House of Commons because Labour is giving it its backing. But of course, the last thing the Prime Minister needs is another dent to his authority with a rebellion from his backbenchers. And that's what this disposable vaping ban is likely to lead to.
OK, thanks, Olivia. Thanks very much. This from a Prime Minister who, of course, does not eat today.
Yes, I read that. 5 o'clock on a Sunday.
Through to 5 a.m. on a Tuesday. Yeah. No wonder he's a little tiny man.
Well, although he does like a cinnamon bun, doesn't he? And he likes his Coca-Cola,
not on a Monday,
so he makes
he doesn't.
up for his sins elsewhere.
But not on a Monday. That's a lot to do. I mean, you imagine he's got all these meetings and receptions and things he has to go to, and people will say, "Would you like a cocktail sausage, Prime Minister?" and or a sausage roll or a pineapple chunk. I don't know what you get, but he has to decline everything, hasn't he?
Yeah. Well, you know, King Charles is the same. He always refuses any lunch.
Does he?
Yeah, he runs on fumes.
Neither does Cliff Richard. Cliff Richard told me he has 1 meal a day.
That's where we're going wrong.
And it makes him a living doll. But anyway.
I pretty much fast from about 6 o'clock on a Sunday till about midday, but then I drink milk in my coffee, so apparently that doesn't count. Your body then your metabolism kicks in. So if I was properly fasting, I would just have.
But you're only playing at it.
Exactly.
I mean, you know, hardcore. Sunak is hardcore on this.
Yeah.
I think it's religious for him. Though I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, President Biden has blamed Iran-backed groups for an attack that killed 3 American troops in Jordan.
Yes, 34 were also injured, suspected brain injuries in a drone assault on a US base near the Syrian border.
Now, it's the first time US servicemen have been killed by strikes in the region since Hamas's October the 7th attack. It has sparked fears of a conflict escalation in the region, with the former president and leading Republican candidate Donald Trump warning that the USA is on the brink of war.
Well, in a post on X, the Foreign Secretary Lord Cameron has strongly condemned the attacks by what he called the militia groups against US forces, and he urged Iran to de-escalate in the region.
Let's now go to Defence Editor at the Evening Standard. We say good morning to Robert Fox. Robert, well, what do you make of this?
Well, this has been going on for quite some time. The attacks on the international bases across Syria and Iraq against IS or ISIL, they're well into the hundreds now. These started a few weeks after October the 7th, and there always has been concern that there would be fatalities. There has been a counterstrike, several counterstrikes by the Americans, including taking out the head of logistics of this umbrella group in Baghdad on the 4th of January. They are very worried about proliferation, and they are worried that Iran's activities will extend the war, so there's a full-blown war between Hezbollah, their client, in Lebanon, and Israel, and this could go well into the East Mediterranean.
Obviously, we stand shoulder to shoulder with America on foreign policy. How concerned should we be, indeed, about our service personnel in the region and about being dragged into this as well?
Well, we're there already. We should be very concerned because there are British personnel involved in these bases across Syria and Iraq. They're watching posts. They're not very heavily defended. This is the problem, is that they don't have the very sophisticated air defenses like Patriot. But I think in quite a large percentage of these bases, I think it's classified material, there are British and other personnel from European allies. So I'm afraid, as you rightly say, we are in it.
OK, Robert, thank you very much indeed.
The time is 12 minutes past 6. Let's have a look at some of the other stories you're waking up to on this Monday morning. And the Business Secretary, Kemi Badenoch, has told GB News she asked the chairman of the Post Office to resign after she realised there were problems with the board. Henry Staunton stepped down over the weekend in the wake of the Horizon IT scandal. The Business Secretary said the decision was by mutual consent after she explained why new leadership was needed.
Labour MP Kate Osamor has had the whip suspended after appearing to say the war in Gaza should be remembered as a genocide in a post about Holocaust Memorial Day. The Edmonton MP has since posted on X issuing an apology for any offence caused, and a Labour source has confirmed that the Chief Whip has suspended her from the parliamentary party while an investigation takes place.
2 people have been arrested after protesters threw soup at the Mona Lisa in the Louvre in Paris. 2 women wearing shirts with the slogan "Food Response" crossed the security boundary and began shouting, "Our farming system is sick." The painting by Da Vinci is widely considered a masterpiece and set behind 3 inches of glass. It was unharmed. Well, the painting was unharmed, but should those protesters remain unharmed? I mean,
Philistines, frankly.
Yes, you see, I knew it got you.
Yeah.
It got you.
Yes, I actually think it just takes away from their message. If they're concerned about the planet, why do they have to do harm to something else? 2 wrongs don't make a right.
Something
I've never
unique,
understood it.
something
irreplaceable, and has been passed through generations. It is outrageous, and it does nothing to further their cause, in my humble opinion.
And in my humble opinion too, Isabel, they would just get right on my threepennies, I have to say. You know, you look at people like that and you think, why doesn't somebody take them and dollop a can of soup over their head? I mean, what makes these people tick? And what purpose does it serve? I mean, the publicity. Thankfully, the painting is unharmed.
It just means that people like this prevent, well, we've seen it in London, people going about their own daily lives getting disrupted, but it also means things like masterpieces then have to be protected and seen under glass, and everything gets more and more protective and
distant.
Yes, distant, and it's just unfortunate.
More security. More searching, more all of that business
queues
going on.
As a result. Joy.
Anyway, your views would be welcome. Murder investigations being launched after 2 teenage boys died following a stabbing attack in Bristol at the weekend.
The 15 and 16-year-olds were attacked in the south of the city on Saturday morning. Avon and Somerset police say a group of people fled the scene by car. A 44-year-old man and a 15-year-old boy have been arrested and both remain in custody.
Now, that comes as an FA Cup match between Wolves and West Brom was suspended for 38 minutes on Sunday after fighting broke out, missiles thrown by supporters there as well. We're now joined by former Detective Chief Inspector Mike Neville. Let's go to Mike. And Mike, the question we're posing today, are we turning into a lawless nation, right, left and centre, whether it's recreation, whether it's people just going about their business during the day or night? It is scary out there in the streets. Why are people so angry?
I really don't know why people are angry, Eamonn. The key thing I have is the police response to this and what people see what the police do. What we've seen with the football, that's a sort of return to the 1970s. Now, the police are usually quite ruthless with football fans. You know, when the police just stop oil or Black Lives Matter, it's one way, and with football fans, it's another. But something's gone badly wrong here in the planning of the game, that they allow different supporters seemingly to mix. And the level of violence is, as I say, it's a return to those days when there used to be cages up on the football ground. And then you've got the incident in Bristol where we see more teenagers dying through knife crime, which just shows that it's not just a London problem. Often we hear about stabbings and death, and it's just a London matter. Here it's another city, Bristol, brutal killing of just seemingly targeted killing of 2 young men. And it just feels that the police are losing control of the streets. And whilst seemingly the whole public sector focuses on, and politicians focus on vaping or some old nonsense, and it just People just feel, I think that the establishment hasn't got a grip. It's focusing on silly things rather than the things that really matter in people's lives, like being safe in your house or on the street.
Well, I believe knife crime's gone up by 25% in the last year. I mean, anyone who's a parent of teenagers are fearful every time their, particularly boys, step outside the house. And at what point are we going to wake up
because the penalties are just not strong enough. They're just not scary enough, Mike. I mean, I look at this situation. If they seriously wanted to do something about this, you're caught with a blade, you're caught with a knife, you get a prison sentence, end off.
Well, I saw a dreadful interview on another channel where the lady was saying her son was stabbed in the head by a group of lads. The perpetrators were captured, and one of the punishments was that the young man who did the stabbing had to write a letter of apology to her son. It's quite incredible. And just recently, I was listening to Yvette Cooper and the Labour Party policy on knives, and it was all about youth workers in hospitals and all this sort of stuff. There was not one mention of how they're going to find these knives. And of course, the way you find a knife is to do stop and search, but the politicians don't like that because it doesn't fit the agenda, because then that means the police are racist because they're picking on all the wrong people, allegedly. And so it's just, as I say, the public are just frustrated. You mentioned it before about the immigration and the small boats. And I think the public feeling about crime is exactly the same, that the establishment has lost its way.
OK, Mike Neville, thanks very much indeed. Former Detective Chief Inspector. It does certainly feel, doesn't it, as though we are in a state of lawlessness and very concerning situation out there.
The FA Cup game on Saturday was a derby match as well, but there are no police. There's very few police at these events anymore. I mean, you get stewards, you get volunteer stewards, but is that enough? Is that what we should be using, or should it be something which is a stronger deterrent with this sort of thing?
And hey, what about the weather? Warmest January for some time, 19 degrees in Scotland. I don't know if you're watching us from...
Well, I missed that.
I missed that as well. Kinlochhew, I've probably pronounced that incorrectly. And this is all to do with the air being pushed up the mountain, the wet air, and then coming down drier on the other side and raising the temperatures. Kind of freak situation. But because we've had the -5s or whatever it was, and then this balmy 19 degrees, the average looks much more reasonable than other Januaries. But
well, I phoned my brother last night, and I was talking with one of my brothers, and I was talking about what a brilliant day it was, how beautiful it was yesterday with the blue skies. And
no, not in
he said
Northern
not
Ireland.
in Belfast. He said just poured with rain all day. So this is, I think it's a miserable November, December, January. It's just grey, dank days, and it's ghastly. Just give us some blue sky.
Come on, Greg Dewhurst.
Can still be cold. Here's Greg.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. We've got a three-way split across the UK today. Frosty start in the north, wet across Wales, northern England, cloudy in the south. And we can see that nicely on the chart for the rest of the day. The rain really set in across parts of Wales, northern parts of the Midlands into northern England right through the day, turning increasingly heavy as we move into the afternoon. Sunny skies for Northern Ireland, much of Scotland. It will be hazy sunshine here. A chilly day to come here. Across the south, mild but rather cloudy, some brighter breaks allowing temperatures to lift to around 14 Celsius. In the north, around 7 to 8 Celsius generally. Into the evening time, the rain continues across parts of Wales, northern England, but it just slowly starts to push its way into the North Sea. Clear skies across Northern Ireland and Scotland will allow temperatures to fall below freezing here and a patchy frost to form. Met Office warnings for rain last right through the night, so there could be some tricky driving conditions if you are travelling through into Tuesday morning. Temperatures under the cloud and the rain generally holding up well above freezing. So a great start for England and Wales. Outbreaks of rain and drizzle continuing to slowly push away eastwards. Frosty, sunny start for Northern Ireland and Scotland. Here it will stay dry for much of the day. Elsewhere, it slowly starts to brighten up from the west, but generally staying cloudy and temperatures a little lower than they have been, 9, 11, 10, 11 Celsius. In the sunshine, 7 or 8 further north.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
I'm at 22 minutes past 6 o'clock. We thought we're going to start your day, start your week with a brand new Great British giveaway.
Yes, your chance now to win an incredible £18,000 in cash.
Just run that past me again.
We've gone
How
up
much?
to 18,000.
1-8.
You ask Phil, who won last time. It is a fantastic way to welcome in a new month, a new year, whatever it might be. That's like having £1,500 per month to play with.
Like £1,500?
Yeah, that's the one.
That's £1,500.
Don't make me read numbers out.
Anyway, so £1,500 a month for an entire year. So I'm sure you've got plenty of plans what you could do with that. Here now are all the details you need for a chance to make that cash yours.
This is your chance to win £18,000 cash in our very latest Great British giveaway. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having an extra £1,500 in your bank account each month for a whole year. What would you use that for? It could go towards your mortgage or rent, buy monthly treats, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. For your chance to win £18,000 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB02 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 23rd of February. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Good luck.
Wonderful. I hope you got a note of that, and we will be repeating that throughout the programme this morning.
Stay with us. Still to come, we'll be reflecting on those tensions rising in the Middle East, and we'll be looking to British troops training ahead of a NATO exercise later in the year.
I thought we...
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you,
GB News.
Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very good. You're up and at it this morning with your views on migration. Good morning to Nick in Sheffield. These migrants are 99% young adult males with enough money to pay people traffickers, and yet the government treats them like tourists.
I'm not sure why it would take a year to process. If they arrived with no passport, they should be flown to Rwanda and be processed there, says Karen in Bolton.
Interesting point, Karen. Tony says we need to stop giving migrant crossing the channel hopes and money.
We've been talking about lawless Britain this morning with all of the bad news over the weekend. Steve says it's to do with generational entitlement. He says disrespect and the failure of parenting and the school system is why we're in the mess we're in.
Stuart, until we get to grips with all forms of crime and, more importantly, punishment, There will be morons who want to disrupt, damage, inflict injury on whatever. We are too soft and lenient. Now, vaping is something we're going to be talking to the Health Secretary in half an hour on. Anthony says, I agree with the banning of these vapes. These are the disposable vapes we're talking about. These young kids are getting more and more into them. For a start, these little vape shops on street corners throughout the country need banning. Well, that's an interesting one because they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Popped up everywhere.
Well, and Liz Truss has been quite vocal on this, saying a Conservative government should not be seeking to extend the nanny state. This will only give suffer to those who wish to ban further choices of which they don't approve. So where do you stand on that? Is banning ever a good thing? I mean, obviously, we've seen cigarettes being banned in restaurants. We've seen been illegal to drive without a seatbelt. Is that good? Is that bad? Is there a role for the state in some of these decisions or not?
Well, also the plastic waste that there is on this and what happens to all of that single-use plastic as well. But what happens if you like these so much, you're addicted to bubblegum flavour, vape, whatever, and you love it so much?
Well, then the desire to get one goes underground and you probably get worse stuff. But it's interesting that the legal route that he's doing this is an environmental one. It's under a law that affects the environment, but actually it's the Health Secretary who's coming on to talk to us. So which is it that the government's trying to do here? Is this an environmental move or is this about kids' health? I will try and understand that.
Keep your comments coming in. gbviews@gbnews.com. Tensions in the Middle East are at breaking point after 3 American troops were killed in a drone attack yesterday. The biggest NATO exercise since the Cold War starts later this year.
Yeah, almost 100,000 troops will be taking part, including the 2nd Battalion, the Royal Anglian Regiment based in Rutland. And our East Midlands reporter Will Hollis has this report.
Pile in and roll out. At Kendrew Barracks, home of the Desert Rats, the British Army's 7th Light Mechanised Brigade is on the move.
We're driving down the road in Rutland. We've just come off of the A1 with members of the 2nd Battalion Royal Anglian Regiment. This is C Company, and they're practising a road manoeuvre in a Foxhound. That's an armoured vehicle.
The brigade's leading NATO's Very High Readiness Joint Task Force. The VJTF can be deployed anywhere in the world within 2 days to keep members safe. This year, the biggest drills since the Cold War are taking place. Steadfast Defender. 31 NATO countries plus Sweden in exercises across the Atlantic and Europe. 90,000 troops. Hundreds of ships, tanks and planes. The alliance is rehearsing manoeuvres needed if an attack came on its eastern shoulder. Ukraine holding the line. If it fails, NATO countries could be next. Article 5 of the partnership says an attack on one is an attack on all. Major General Chip Chapman is former senior British military advisor to US Central Command.
That is important to show that you can deploy quickly, and you're willing to accept the risk and support a partner nation which is bordered by Russia and to deter them, because this is really about deterrence. And you can do deterrence by 2 methods. Deterrence by denial, which we hope works. If that doesn't work, you do deterrence by punishment.
Defence Secretary Grant Shapps reinforced Britain's commitment to NATO earlier this month.
The UK will be sending some 20,000 personnel to lead one of NATO's largest deployments.
In its 75th year, NATO is posturing a war footing. The men and women of the Royal Anglians are stepping in.
The Royal Anglian Regiment are just taking a battalion photo. In a few months' time, they'll be in Eastern Europe on the biggest NATO exercise since the Cold War, Steadfast Defender.
The Desert Rats earned their name during the Second World War. They defend it, preventing a third. Will Hollis, GB News, Rutland.
Well, that was very interesting. I'm just thinking there, you and me could be in those kits, part of that exercise there.
I think so.
Driving one of those vehicles.
I think more in a overseeing way.
Oh, we'd have to be in charge.
With the colonels.
A colonel stick. What's that stick called?
I don't know. I thought it was just a stick. Is it like a shooting
Well,
stick?
you don't just say
What do
the
you do
colonel's here
a
with a stick.
Hasn't it got a little bit of brass at the
you
end?
two, aren't we? It's like,
Wait for it.
it's like
Wait for it, Holmes.
It's a
wait for it. I'll
be
do
a
that.
baton.
Yes.
A baton, wouldn't
well,
it?
that's like one of those, though, isn't it? It's like a... I'll find that out. And then as soon as I do, I'll get us one. Yeah.
Perfect.
When we were at school, we had... and as prefects, and you had umbrellas.
You had umbrellas?
They were very good as batons, but they were
Are
very
we allowed
good.
to beat people with an umbrella as you were prefect, or were you confiscating them from the people who were beating other people with them?
No, we were imposing discipline.
Oh, my goodness.
What, with an umbrella?
Physical violence.
They were quite good. You had a stumpy, fold-away umbrella, which was sharp and
If you're in trouble, you wait till it opens. That's when it really hurts. Yeah.
You see, this goes back to what Steve was saying. There's no respect in schools
No respect.
anymore.
There was in St Malachy's College, I'll tell you that.
It's like Tom Brown's school days.
Right. Well, I tell you what. There's a lot of what happened at the weekend where there needed to be respect imposed. The FA Cup game between West Brom and Wolves. So it eventually got underway after a 38-minute delay.
Yep. First Black Country derby in 12 years. It's always going to be a lot of tension in a game like this. There we are. There's some of the pictures from yesterday, and Wolves hadn't won there in 28 years. But usually nice to be talking about the football, but it was 11:45 kickoff. So they move it because often you think when there's a real rivalry and then you get kickoffs in the afternoon or the evening, and there's always that, well, people can spend time drinking. 11:45 in the morning. Wolves went 2 up, and it was at that moment, this is about 78 minutes, that it all kicked off. And I think what it was, and this is what we seem to be hearing, is, and it always happens, that there were Wolves fans that were in the West Brom end.
Yeah.
And then when Wolves score, then obviously they up and cheer, and then that's when fans will start clashing. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, I've seen it loads of times. You would have seen it loads of times as well. But they've got to keep them separated, and that's probably what started the whole thing. So the game was halted for 34 minutes. We've got players that are looking for their families, and it's just going back to those old...
I've seen grown men my age turn and attack verbally at least 10-year-old boy.
That's horrible.
And this was at Reading, and I just think, grow up. I've seen it everywhere. And it's always, people always think it's youths and all this sort of thing. No, it's not. It's old codgers, and they should know better. Their lives must be pretty dull.
Yeah,
that they need to express themselves like that at the weekend.
If you think of when violence was bad in the 70s and early 80s. And a lot of it's the same fellas, and it still stays with them. And they have this, and it's very difficult to try and explain the tribal side of football, which is there, which there's good parts of it because you feel part of it, but also there's the bad side as well. And then you get, I've done time for my club, I've done it. It's like, this is just so pathetic. But it happens.
Well, it is pathetic.
And hopefully we don't see much more of it.
Let's just round up the other FA Cup games.
Sure. United, do you want to do that?
No, well, what an embarrassment that was.
Well, they did win. I mean, it was...
Oh, for goodness sake.
But the thing is, I'm going to go in defence of you, and I know that a lot of Manchester United people and also critics around United will go, it should have been easy, it wasn't good enough, and they were 2-0. But Newport, they've got a reputation for this, and it is the FA Cup, and these things do happen.
Yeah, well, it is the magic of the Cup. That's very true. I mean, from that point of view, that is the beauty of the Cup, and that's what it's all about. Liverpool through as well?
Yeah, it's the long goodbye from Jurgen Klopp has begun. The tears, this is going to go on for a very long time. I mean, what a huge surprise it was that Jurgen Klopp said on Friday that he's stepping away. I mean, it took everybody by surprise. Nobody had a clue. But he's walking away. And, you've got to give it to him, really. Because apart from Fergie, how many managers have actually walked away? Because usually they get fired.
Have you seen this rumour doing the rounds that Arteta's going?
That'll never happen.
I don't think it'll happen.
But what's he going to do? Is he just, heading off to sunbathe or something? Or has he got another...
No, he would probably take a year out. He could go to the German national team, which would be a less demanding
it's
job,
less taxing,
I suppose.
Yeah.
But he probably just needs family time and whatever. I think it's just full-on stuff managing a football club. But there you go. I'm devastated by the whole thing.
I am as well. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Awful. Right, so let's go to cricket and...
I want to mention this because this is
Hyderabad.
This is huge. I mean, it's one of the greatest away victories that there's ever been in English cricket. I can't go over the top with this. India lost only 3 out of their last 46 home tests, never lost a home test when they've been over 100 in the lead, and it looked like, this is not going to go well. Ollie Pope scores 196, then India are set 231 to win, and even then, it's like they should be OK. And then England bowled out India for 202. Now, this young kid, Tom Hartley, he's come in. The first ball that he bowled against India was hit for 6. A young spinner, and it's like, this guy hasn't played enough Test cricket. Well, he's played no Test cricket. He hasn't played enough first-class cricket. And then in the second innings, he takes 7 wickets, and he was just brilliant. And it was just such a brilliant test. And it's all the stuff about Bazball. It was just great. I can't...
OK. A great away win for England.
It almost got you excited about cricket, didn't it?
I respect it. I don't understand it.
OK, listen, we're going to go during that.
Just quickly round up the Australian Open, the Tennis Open.
Yeah, Yannick Sinner, and we talked about Yannick a lot, haven't we? 22-year-old Italian. See, you're rolling your eyes because you know what's coming, don't you?
I know what's coming. Sorry, I'm so disgusted. I'm starting to have a coughing fit. No, I'm not a big fan of all the hoobery that goes with it, but anyone that can beat Djokovic,
yes,
I'm happy about that.
OK, and he's come through as well, and he's beaten Zverev as well, and it was Medvedev, I beg your pardon. So 5 sets, 2 sets down. So let's see the celebrations of Isabel's favourite. There we are. They obviously didn't get tickets for the final. You think that maybe Yannick could have given the Carota boys some tickets for the final, but there they are.
Do you love the Carota boys, Paul?
Well, I don't love them, but I appreciate their love.
But it's all boys. Since when
Sinner.
did tennis fans all become boys? When they become like this, it's kind of laddish.
They're enjoying themselves.
They are, but where are the girls?
I do find it bizarre though when you have supporters and I worked with someone once and it was at a football game and he was going, I don't really like football. I like tennis and I'm a big Roger Federer fan. And he supported Federer like people would support football teams and travel around watching him. And I just find that a bit, don't you?
No, I think that's great. I love Roger Federer. I'd love to travel around.
But would you dress as a carrot for Roger Federer? I bet you would,
No.
If he asked you to, I bet you would.
Well, maybe.
OK.
What's that song? I don't like cricket.
I love 10cc.
I love it.
Yeah,
what was it?
Dreadlock Holiday.
Dreadlock Holiday. Very
well
good.
done, Paul. You never let us down.
Never let me down. Very good. OK, Paul will be back later. Thank you very much indeed. Up next, taking a look at the front pages and the top stories across the papers this morning. Who's doing that?
Well, we're welcoming back Christopher Biggins. We haven't seen him in ages, and Dawn Neeson as well, so don't go anywhere.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show.
Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else.
We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride.
Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse.
It's news, but it's this close to entertainment.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK.
Here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We've got Don Neeson and we've got Christopher Biggins. We welcome them both into studio to go through the stories making the headlines this morning.
Yeah, let's start with the front pages of The Times, The Telegraph and The Guardian, Dawn. And this is the worrying news about not only a strike on a US military base, but a fatal one, 3 US troops dead and 34 being examined for brain injuries. And Donald Trump coming out and saying this could be, World War III.
A horrific story. It's in all the papers, the front page of the ones you've just mentioned. It's the first combat death troops for US in 2 years. As you just said, Isabel, 25 US service personnel injured, brain damage potentially. We don't know the full details. It was a suicide drone designed to fly, to target and explode, and it's taken out the military base in northern Jordan near the Syrian border. And it's carried out, we're not shocked to learn, by the Iranian-backed Islamic resistance who are based in Iraq. And also, at the same time, our destroyer, who out in the Red Sea, HMS Diamond, was forced to use Sea Viper missile system to shoot down yet another Houthi target. Biden has said America will retaliate, and Trump has said, as you said, this is, if I was in charge, this would not be happening.
Well, if Biggins was in charge of an art gallery, it may be a safer place than the Louvre is in Paris. You like your art, Christopher. What did you make of what you saw, the defecation, really, of the Mona Lisa yesterday?
Well, I think it's another attempt by this organisation to make sensational headlines. Healthy and substantial food. So I suppose the soup...
They're not wrong. The thing is, they're not wrong about their protest about food, I would say.
Certainly not. I mean, it's like
But it's the way they go about it.
Exactly. I mean, this is a very famous painting. I mean, thankfully, it is well protected with bulletproof glass.
But say it hadn't have been. Say, I mean, they don't know that. They don't know that...
Well, they must have known.
Well, the soup could have leaked in. There's many things that could have happened. And what if the worst had have happened?
Well, it would have been a disaster, an absolute disaster. But this is what happened when they were doing things in England on motorways and forbidding people getting to hospitals. They don't really think it through, I don't think.
But Biggins, just explain to us, anyone who doesn't necessarily go to art galleries or necessarily even really appreciate the Mona Lisa, why masterpieces matter in this day and age?
I think they matter because they're our history. I mean, it's like the wars that are going on at the moment. When you think of what we're losing in these wars, art-wise, building-wise, it's disgraceful. I mean, it's worse almost than the deaths that are going on, because a whole history is being blown away.
Yeah, now I just wonder what will happen to these two women. What sort of charges will be brought against them, or will anything be done about them at all? Just be interesting.
French police are pretty heavy-handed, they generally aren't.
Are they?
Well, they love...
I'm just stunned. I mean, every time I've been to try and see the Mona Lisa, I'm down to about 25 people back. I can never get that close to see the damn thing. So the fact that
very small, isn't it?
It is very small, and there's loads of people in front of you. So how they got close enough to actually fling soup at it is not.
First thing on a Sunday morning, that was it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Obviously, the time to go.
Look, Dawn, today, another Rwandan delay ahead, and the House of Lords, they're trying to water down the whole legislation involved here. People are quite sick and fed up with this. We had 350 migrants who got into the country illegally at the weekend, and we just cannot... When is somebody going to wake up to the fact, however horrible their situation is, we just can't keep taking people at this rate.
We can't, and we can't afford it. We're paying £7 million, is it, in hotel bills on a daily basis. Look, it's not fair on the people that are here. It's not fair on the migrants. It's not fair on anyone. Someone needs to do anything. But now we are caught in this ridiculous game of ping-pong between the House of Lords and the House of Commons. This bill was passed in the House of in the House of Commons. It's gone to the House of Lords now. They are going to try and water it down. And the parties, Lib Dems Republicans are the ones that are actually going to potentially do this, defy convention by voting against the safety of Rwanda bill at its second reading. It's a highly unusual move and it tabled a fatal motion that could kill off the government's legislation. Now, at the end of the day, the House of Commons can override the Lords, so it will go through. But it's just a game of ping-pong.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we're all out here getting frustrated, still talking about the damn Rwanda bill.
Yes, but it's about to happen again. Another rebellion, possibly, for the Prime Minister with this vaping ban. And the same sort of group of Tories, Liz Truss, very outspoken on this, saying that banning the sale of tobacco products to anyone born in 2009 or later will create an absurd situation where adults enjoy different rights based on their birth date.
Are you vapor, Biggins?
No, certainly not.
No.
I think it's disgraceful. But I think, you know, what is that? This is not the story about vaping. This is a story about infighting in the government. I mean, you know, they just want to get rid of him at the moment. And so any story against him, let's have a go at.
What about him not eating on a Monday?
I love this story.
Is that a story against you? He doesn't eat.
I don't personally, but I mean, I do know a lot of people who do
What,
do
you
it.
don't eat?
What do you mean? No, I eat.
Oh, I don't. Well, I've no doubt.
I don't fast. But I do think that, you know, it's an interesting one, and I know a lot of people who swear by it, but it is very difficult when you think about it, not eating.
Especially to run the country
but
and
I
not
do
eat.
think if you're very, very busy, like he must be, it's easier to probably skip meals because you're not thinking about food. And also, I think if you have a lot of heavy food, then it makes you tired.
And he's fit too, isn't he?
Maybe it helps him because he does a lot of PMQs
But I
on
find
Monday,
it hard
apparently.
to sleep if I haven't eaten.
Yeah, I mean,
Eating
I
helps me to
actually,
sleep.
I quite like hunger pains, I must admit, because I think that they're doing some good. I don't feel, I'm a bit like Isabel, I don't like feeling too full up, because then I get sluggish.
There's no doubt that that is the good thing for you, not to be full up.
Yes, no, exactly. But I mean, it's the thought of it, of stopping eating at 5 o'clock on a Sunday night and then not eating again until 5 a.m. on the Tuesday morning.
But does he actually get up at 5 a.m. on the Tuesday to eat?
Probably, knowing him.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably. Could you do it? Let us know.
Guys, we'll just hold your horses there a bit and we'll see you again in 40 minutes' time. We go to the Health Secretary, Victoria Atkins. Now, we'll be speaking to her about the government's latest move to ban disposable vapes after this very short break.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel. Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests, and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Say, if you tuned in earlier, Paul and Eamonn were trying to think of the name of the sticks that generals have.
Oh, yes, yes.
John, Kenneth, Raymond, Dean and David have all sent emails in, and they say there are two types of sticks. Officers normally have swagger sticks, which sounds very appropriate for you guys, and warrant officers use pace sticks, depending on their job. You and Paul are talking of swagger sticks.
Swagger sticks.
Swagger.
And I totally can see you guys with some swagger sticks.
Yeah, like Captain Mannering would have a swagger stick.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. You never appeared in Dad's Army, did you?
No, never did, sadly. Everything else.
You'd have been too young.
Yeah.
Too young for all of that. Right, where are we?
Let's talk about this knife epidemic. Really shocking story coming from Knoll West in Bristol. It's Ilminster, really, Ilminster Avenue. 15, 16-year-old boys murdered. Terrible.
And they've arrested another 15-year-old.
It's only
boy.
making the front of the Metro, I noticed.
This is the front of the Metro, yeah. You know what, Isabel? The reason it's only on the front of the Metro is because it's so commonplace now that it doesn't... I mean,
it's disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful.
That's the
I'm
thing.
fed up talking about it. There is no scary deterrent for anybody who carries a knife. You carry a knife, you should be in jail. End off.
Well, this is what the parents of that lovely young lady, Grace O'Malley-Coomer, who was 19 and stabbed by that odious piece of scum, Valdo Cocaine, along with Barnaby Webber and the school caretaker Ian Coates, who was 65. They are actually campaigning now that, you know, if you carry a knife, that's it, you should face tougher sentences.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the person that murdered those two young students and Ian, the caretaker, is in a secure hospital, Maghole near Liverpool, where if he gets his medication right, he can go out on social nights, he gets education, gym, arts and craft, metal workshop, cookery classes, even gets satellite TV in his secure room. Now, I'm sorry, those youngsters, and obviously, you know, Ian Coates, who was 65, their lives are gone.
And they're not learning anything, are they?
No one's learning anything.
You know, so
as a country covered in potholes, I really do believe we could get prisoners out and about.
I agree. Let's do that.
The country.
Absolutely. They do that in America.
Yeah. What's the problem? Why are we so afraid of that?
Chain gangs. But someone came up with the suggestion at the weekend that we have a shortage of armed forces in this country. We don't have enough people to put on our warships, the warships that we have. So why not? These youngsters that are wandering around carrying knives, thinking they're the big men in gang fights, put them on the front line.
Yeah.
We end up with a dirty dozen, really, like that. Right, we're going to go to the Health Secretary, Victoria Atkins, who joins us this morning. And Health Secretary, so much to talk to you about today. Disposable vapes being one of them. What's your view? What's your take? What's the government trying to achieve with this?
Well, good morning. What we're trying to achieve with this consultation and in due course the piece of legislation we're going to bring forward is, first of all, to prevent people from smoking in the first place. You know, I've never met a smoker who is glad that they took up smoking, and I think every mum and dad and carer, none of us wants our children to take up smoking. So that is the motivation of the Prime Minister, is to create the first smoke-free generation. But following on from that, we also have to look at the impact of vaping, because vaping can be really powerful as a quitting tool for adults who already smoke. But none of us think that children should be vaping, and yet the evidence is emerging very quickly that over the last 3 years, for example, the number of children that have taken up vaping has trebled. And so we have listened to the concerns of mums and dads and the wider community, and we are going to be bringing forward a prohibition on disposable vapes, because we know those are the vapes that children tend to use. Some 69% of children use disposable vapes. And not only are they a gateway to nicotine addiction, of course, we know also they litter our streets. There's an extraordinary statistic that in a single week alone, 5 million disposable vapes are either thrown on our streets or thrown in our bins. And so there is an environmental reason behind this as well. But first and foremost, safeguarding children, ensuring that they can grow up without that nicotine addiction, is the reason behind this legislation and this consultation.
And how frustrating is it for you in what feels feels like a sort of dying administration, that you can't even bring forward a piece of legislation like this without it being more of the Tory psychodrama. Front page of the Times this morning, being led by not some minor backbencher, but a former Prime Minister, saying that she doesn't agree with this legislation. And to quote, she says, adults must be able to make their own choices about their own lives, and Conservative governments should not be seeking to extend the nanny state. And she's just one of a number of rebels expected to vote against this.
Well, first and foremost, this is a long-term decision, a really bold long-term decision for for a brighter future. This is not, as I won't use your words, but this is an ambitious and bold move by this government to ensure the future health of our children, not just in the next few years, but in the decades to come. And by the way, just to put it into context, in the short time that you and I have been in this interview, a couple of more people will have been admitted to an NHS hospital with a smoking-related disease, because every minute of every single day a person is admitted to hospital for those reasons. But on the wider issue of the Kremlinology, if you like, of how this bill is taken through the House, bills relating to smoking have always been matters of conscience, and the Prime Minister, quite rightly, is honouring that. But I do think we're going to see a great debate in the House. It's right that we debate these things, but we will, I suspect, we'll see members of Parliament wanting to represent their constituents and the concerns of their constituents when it comes to smoking and vaping. Apologies, there's a very loud motorcycle just gone past.
Everything. That's what I would ban.
I can't hear you for the moment. Sorry.
Secretary of State, that's what I would ban. The guy on that motorbike with that noise, that would be a ticket for me on that.
Yeah.
But you talk about the evils of smoking, and 2 people while we were doing this interview being admitted to hospital with a smoking-related illness. Why aren't we just banning smoking?
Well, we don't want to ban adults who have already started smoking, and we know that 4 out of 5 smokers started smoking before the age of 20. So we want to help those adult smokers quit. And so as part of this package of legislation and measures, we're also announcing a doubling of funding into quit services, and that can include things such as the Swap to Quit package, which means that people can, if they feel that vaping is what will help them quit, then they can talk to their GP, and they're able to access reusable vapes to help them do that. But we want to help adult smokers quit, but we want to stop children from starting in the first place, because the evidence is so clear about when that can happen. I mean, some 14 or 15% of 16 and 17-year-olds today smoke, and we want to try and prevent that in the future.
Just lastly, a comment from you, if you will, please, on the incident in Jordan yesterday. President Biden saying that he's vowed action against those responsible. Will we in the UK stand shoulder to shoulder with the United States as we're frankly seeing the tensions in the Middle East escalating significantly with the death of 3 American soldiers?
Well, first and foremost, obviously our thoughts and sympathies are with the families affected by that horrific attack, but also, of course, with the United States. And we have said, the Foreign Secretary has said that we strongly condemn these attacks, and we will, of course, watch this with great concern and attention. But we also call, actually, on the Iranian-backed rebels and others who are conducting these attacks. We call on them to de-escalate, because this cannot be allowed to continue.
OK. Health Secretary Victoria Atkins, thanks very much indeed for your time, and withstanding the noise from the motorbikes there as well. We appreciate it. Thank you. A very good morning to you. It's fast approaching 7 o'clock. It's Monday, the 29th of January, and you're tuned into Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Leading the news on this Monday morning, the government's Rwanda bill returns to the House of Lords today. Net migration shows no sign of abating, as GB News can report 350 people crossed the Channel this weekend alone. Olivia Utley with more.
The Prime Minister is facing yet another showdown in the House of Lords as his Rwanda bill continues its bumpy road through Parliament. Will this flagship policy ever make it to the statute book now?
President Biden has vowed to retaliate after 3 US service personnel were killed in an Iran-backed drone attack in Jordan. This comes as Donald Trump warns the US is on the brink of World War III. We'll be speaking to Tobias Ellwood, the former chair of the Defence Select Committee, at 7:30.
As you've just been hearing, disposable vapes are to be banned in a bid to protect children's health, along with a crackdown on cigarettes.
2 teenage boys have been stabbed to death in Bristol over the weekend after a cup match was suspended over violence. Have we become a nation defined by lawlessness?
In the last year, 1 in 3 employers has seen a rise in staff working from home. But is it destroying workplaces? We'll be debating that very shortly.
Paul Coit say with all his sport.
I'm going to talk about this one for a while. England beat India brilliantly in the first test. Marcus Rashford's in a bit of trouble at Manchester United, and the San Francisco 49ers will play the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl next month, which takes place in Las Vegas, and I think it would be a nice gesture to send me along for the week. What do you think?
Very
nice
good.
Yeah, send
why
you
not?
and keep you there.
OK, fair enough.
Here's Greg Dewhurst with your weather.
Hello there, good morning. There is a 3-way split in the weather today. Find out all the details of the weather where you are coming up in the programme.
Lots of you getting in touch about the vaping story this morning. Anthony says, I agree with the banning of these vapes. These young kids are getting more and more into them. For a start, these little vape shops on street corners throughout the country need banning. And Diane says, too much freedom is destructive to humans. We need rules and regulations within reason to operate a decent society. In other words, doing what you like, regardless of others, is why we are in the state we're in.
The escalating situation in the Middle East concerns Ewan in Grimsby. This country's been dragged into a major conflict. Do we really want this? Lawless Britain, with the 2 young lads being murdered in Bristol at the weekend. Jackie says, I agree with harsher punishment for knife crime, but those people chuck their knives. If there's a chance of being caught, you can't win. Anthony says, I think knife crimes are to do with drugs, and housing estates around the country need more police boots on the ground, properly dressed police.
Yeah, Margaret says lots of young children have no respect for authority. A school near my home in Wakefield regularly has pupils climbing over the locked gates. When I told the office staff, they said, well, we're not a prison. What hope have we got, she asks.
Yeah, Joe says these people must face proper punishment. Behaviour is unacceptable.
Keep your thoughts coming in, gbnews@gbnews.com, or you can tweet us at gbnews.
Top story this morning. GB News understands that 350 people crossed the English Channel over the weekend, taking the total since January the 1st to over 1,000.
Well, this comes as the House of Lords is once again debating the government's Safety of Rwanda bill later this afternoon.
And let's go to our political correspondent, Olivia Utley, who joins us this morning with her take on things. Olivia, good morning.
Morning. The Rwanda bill is proving to be such a headache for the Prime Minister. A couple of weeks ago, there was very nearly a rebellion in the House of Commons, with MPs on the right of the Conservative Party arguing that the bill didn't go far enough. They worried that there were too many loopholes in the bill, and what would end up happening is that although the whole Rwanda would be deemed legally safe as a country and the scheme in general would be able to get off the ground, there would be too many individual migrants arguing that in their personal circumstances, deportation to Rwanda would be unsafe. Rishi Sunak did manage to see off that rebellion at the last minute, and the bill progressed to the House of Lords. But now in the House of Lords, he's facing the opposite problem. The bill is going to its second reading today, and 70 peers are due to speak about the bill. And what they're essentially going to say is that they would like to see it watered down. They're worried that it goes too close to breaking international law, and they think that a slightly different scheme would work better and be more compatible with our international obligations. Now, usefully for them, the head of the European Court of Human Rights has recently said over the weekend that she thinks that the bill as it stands is not compatible with European human rights. Rishi Sunak has said that it is, but she says that it isn't. So those peers will be feeling buoyed up by her comments and will feel emboldened to make those speeches in opposition to that bill. And they're not just any old peers. We're expecting to hear from the Archbishop of Canterbury, who's been critical of the Rwanda bill before, and the Bishop of London too. This is really, really tricky for Rishi Sunak. If the Lords choose to amend the bill, it'll go over back to the Commons, where the Commons will get to vote on whether they want to pass the amendments to the Lords bill, essentially if they want to see the bill watered down. Eventually, ultimately, the Commons gets the final say over the bill, but it's all going to take a very long time. If the Lords amend the bill, the Commons unamend it, if you like, then it gets sent back to the Lords, etc. It's all going to take a couple of months. And Rishi Sunak really doesn't have a couple of months. He said that he wants to get flights off the ground to Rwanda by the spring. And as we've heard this morning, there is real urgency to that. 350 more migrants have just crossed the channel, bringing the total to 1,000 in January alone. Rishi Sunak needs this plan to work quickly. He needs people to see that he is taking action on illegal migration well ahead of the general election in the second half of this year. And from the speed at which this bill is travelling through Parliament at the moment, it's not looking good for Sunak.
Yeah, poor Sunak. I'm just reading the front of the Times this morning, talking about his legacy for his premiership and this attack on, if you call it an attack, this ban on disposable vapes, but also this world-leading legislation about making smoking illegal for anyone under the age of 15 as they come up through the ranks. But that is due to cause huge problems as well. He's due to face a Commons showdown on that from his own party, the likes of Liz Truss.
He is, and that is another headache coming down the line for Rishi Sunak. A group of about 70 Conservative MPs, mainly from the right of the party, the libertarians of the Conservatives, if you like, including Liz Truss, have said that they want to amend that legislation that Rishi Sunak is bringing in to ban smoking forever for anyone currently under the age of 15. They say that it would be a ridiculous situation if in sort of 5 or 10 years' time, adults had different rights depending on their birth dates. At the moment, anyone born in 2009 or after would never be allowed to smoke. What this group of rebels would like to see happen is for the legislation to be changed so that instead of this sort of graded ban, smoking would just, the legal age of smoking would just be raised to 21. Now, that amendment is unlikely to pass. The government is likely to win this battle, but, and this is very important, it will only win because the Labour Party has said that it will support the government on this. And it really isn't a good look for a sitting Prime Minister. I mean, you might say a win is a win, but if a Prime Minister only wins a vote because the opposition is choosing to back it, it really weakens his authority. And the very fact that 70 of his own MPs are fighting back against this piece of legislation, which he has said he'd like to be part of his legacy, just further undermines his authority in Parliament.
Olivia, thanks very much indeed. Well, with the time at 7 minutes, let's take a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom this morning. And President Biden has blamed Iran-backed groups for an attack that killed 3 American troops in Jordan and injured another 34. It's the first time US servicemen have been killed by strikes in the region since Hamas's October the 7th attack on Israel, sparking fears of a conflict escalation in the region. We'll be speaking to the former chair of the Defence Select Committee at 7:30 this morning.
Labour MP Kate Osamore has had the whip suspended after appearing to say the war in Gaza should be remembered as a genocide in a post about Holocaust Memorial Day. The Edmonton MP has since posted on X issuing an apology for any offence caused. A Labour source confirmed that the Chief Whip has suspended her from the parliamentary party while an investigation takes place.
And 2 people have been arrested after protesters threw soup in the Mona Lisa, at the Mona Lisa, in the Louvre Museum in Paris. 2 women wearing shirts with the slogan "Food Response" crossed the security boundary and began shouting, "Our farming system is sick." The Leonardo da Vinci painting, widely considered a masterpiece, is set behind 3 inches of protective glass and was unharmed.
I don't think the painting would be unharmed. It would be undamaged. It wouldn't be... It's not a living thing.
You can cause harm to an inanimate object, can't you? No, it's harm.
I don't think so.
OK.
Disposable vapes. OK, we'll be talking about those this morning. Are they an attraction to you or not? Well, they're set to be banned in Britain to protect children's health, that's being claimed.
Yeah, we've been speaking to the Health Secretary, Victoria Atkins, about it this morning. This is what she had to say.
Number of children that have taken up vaping has trebled, and so we have listened to the concerns of mums and dads and the wider community, and we are going to be bringing forward a prohibition on disposable vapes, because we know those are the vapes that children tend to use. Some 69% of children use disposable vapes. And not only are they a gateway to nicotine addiction, of course, we know also they litter our streets. There's an extraordinary statistic that in a single week alone, 5 million disposable vapes are either thrown on our streets or thrown in our bins. And so there is an environmental reason behind this as well. But first and foremost, safeguarding children, ensuring that they can grow up without that nicotine addiction is the reason behind this legislation and this consultation.
Yeah, the Health Secretary, Victoria Atkins, there. Joining us now, Director General at the Vaping Industry Association, John Dunn. John, good to talk to you again this morning. Well, what do you make of this one? The Health Secretary saying vapes are a gateway to nicotine addiction.
Well, the Health Secretary is correct that you know more young people have tried vapes. Still, the vast majority of young people don't vape or even don't know about vapes. Now, I'm absolutely dismayed by this move by the government. And I really think they're throwing the 4.6 million vapers under the bus as a cheap publicity stunt to get votes. Now, vaping is the most successful way that people quit smoking in the UK. It's twice as effective as all others. And really, the people that they're throwing under the bus here are those people who have the least amount of income in the highest smoking areas during a cost of living crisis. Because vaping, disposable vapes have been around for well over 10 years, and they've always been that low-cost entry point for smokers looking to make a switch into vaping. And the interesting fact is that the median age for disposable users in this country is actually 35 years of age. Now, while we understand that, young people need to be protected, we feel this isn't the way to go.
So who are you saying this is harming? This is not young people, you're saying this is people 35 plus.
Well, what it's going to do is it's going to harm those on lower incomes. But the problem is what the government is announcing today is not going to solve the problem. All it's going to do is fuel a massive black market. Now, everybody's warned them about this. Trading Standards have warned them about this. Action for Smoking on Health have warned them. Even the Royal College of Physicians have warned them that this is not the action to take. Now, what we've told the government what they should be doing is actually enforcing the laws that they currently have. Now, it's illegal for anybody under the age of 18 to buy a vape in the first place, but what they should be doing is issuing licenses to distributors and retailers to ensure that they understand their legal obligation, but also to bring in fines of a minimum of £10,000 for anybody caught selling illegal products or products to minors. And we had a situation recently where one store who sold vapes to a 14-year-old on 2 separate occasions was fined £28 by a court. Now, that's ridiculous.
Comments, though, I mean, you were listing all those medical professionals that were sort of disagreeing with the ban, but the Chief Medical Officer, Professor Sir Chris Whitty, so many people will be familiar with him, he says that smoking, and this is a gateway to it, damages and cuts short lives in extraordinary numbers. It causes stillbirths, cancer, asthma, dementia, stroke and heart failure, and disability and death throughout the life course. If passed, this legislation will have major public health impact across many future generations. And he's obviously talking about the wider smoking ban. But the point is that a lot of people are using vaping as a gateway, and as you yourself said, then it needs to be some sort of mechanism to protect young people.
Well, the vast majority of people who use vapes were previous smokers. And Chris Whitty is exactly right. Smoking is the most preventable death we have. 220 people die every day from smoking in the UK. Now, nobody has died in the UK or globally from vaping a commercially produced nicotine e-liquid. And that's a massive, massive factor. So this is about risk
programme,
mitigation.
we've had life-changing implications from smoking from vapes, haven't we? We've had one in the studio, that a young person that's in a wheelchair now for the rest of their lives. And just last week, I think you debated and are quite familiar.
Unfortunately, I've lost your sound. I can't hear you.
That's unfortunate. OK, well, we'll leave it at that then, shall we?
Such a good point there. The thing about that, that's John Dunn. John's from the industry there on behalf of vaping. I mean, I'm just very blessed that I'm not addicted to it. I don't need it. I find it a strange thing to watch people outside. There's an awful lot of smoke generated by them as well. It's not like just like a cigarette, but it's like when someone breathes one in, then suddenly there's like 15 minutes of smoke exhaled from them.
I just want to quote the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health say, we're delighted that the government's heard our calls, and they say bold action was needed to curb youth vaping, and banning disposables is a meaningful step in the right direction. Do you agree? Be part of the conversation. Let us know. gbviews@gbnews.com.
Well, it'd be pretty bad if you were, you were addicted to them, and then they're now done away with. And what do you do?
Well, just disposable vapes. I think you can get those more refillable ones. Yeah.
Oh, so there's something that's more permanent. The whole world that I miss out on.
I know.
But you see, that litter thing annoys me as well.
Yeah.
That single-use plastic type thing.
Absolutely. And you sit on a park bench and you're just surrounded by the legal highs.
Yeah.
Or not so legal anymore, or soon to be illegal.
Like XL bully dogs, owners are being urged to register their pets before the ban comes into force. This is the 1st of February, so not long now.
Yeah, and anyone who owns an unregistered dog after Thursday could face a fine or even a criminal record.
Well, we're joined by Chief Veterinary Officer Dr. Christine Middlemas about all of this. Christine, are you worried about anything in particular as the deadline approaches?
Well, we've had a fantastic response so far to the call for registration for certificates of exemption. We've processed over 33,000, but this is a call to remaining XL bully owners. If you think you have an XL bully, register it. You have until noon on Wednesday.
Why do you think it is that some people haven't come forward? Is this deliberate, or do you think that there are people who just aren't aware of what's going on?
So, as I said, we've had this great response where very few people, very few owners who know about it haven't registered. So far, there have been dogs that have been taken to rescue homes and things, and there's a facility for them to register. So there's been a lot of publicity about it and a lot of contact, but final call is welcome, hopefully, to reach out to people who are still wondering, should I do it?
OK, so what happens after Thursday? What changes? What is different?
So it becomes illegal to own an XL bully and not have it registered and be in possession of a certificate of exemption.
Would we find out if a pet was legally or illegally owned?
So all dogs in England and Wales already have to be microchipped. So it would be scanned for the microchip number, and then we can check on our database whether it's registered or not. If it's not registered, then it becomes a criminal offence to own that dog, and it'll be for the courts to decide what the next steps are.
Christine, have you come in contact with an XL bully dog?
Me personally, no. Other previous brand breeds, when I was still in practice, yes, but an XL Bully, no. But given their heavy musculature and the kind of jaw and things they have, I think, if I was still a vet in practice and one of them comes to your surgery, you hope it is one that is well managed and trained to be comfortable in situations where it might be stressed.
One of these dogs would frighten you.
Yeah, if I was not confident in the owner's control over it, absolutely. When you're in your veterinary surgery and you're in your clinician's room, with the door closed and things, there's you and a very powerful dog there. So absolutely, if I wasn't confident in the breeder's ability to control it, yes, I would be watching its behaviour for if it might feel threatened.
And for the last 29 days since the law changed, any XL Bully dogs out and about on the streets have to wear muzzles. They have to be kept on a lead. It's now illegal to breed, sell, advertise, gift, exchange or abandon an XL Bully, dog. Are you finding that these rules are being followed? And is that what you're hearing in your role as Chief Veterinary Officer? Or is there still concern that there are a number of XL Bullies with, frankly, unruly owners?
So yes, the feedback is that they are being muzzled and walked in a lead. There was a degree of notice for people to do this, and there's a lot of training and advice available from a number of the animal welfare charities about how to get your dog used to wearing the muzzle. It's an important part of this whole process. We're going through the muzzling, the walking on a lead, and indeed, and the ban on breeding. And indeed, those registered dogs will have to be neutered, so will not be able to be bred.
Okay, Christine, thank you very much indeed. Christine is the Chief Veterinary Officer in the country. And, when you look at the owners and why owners want to breed dogs like this and give them a vicious side to them. I was in a pub yesterday and there were 6 dogs there for Sunday lunch they were in, and not a bark between them, all big dogs. Really, it's amazing that mankind can breed such a genteel animal, such a loving type animal by and large. And those who sort of spoil that, they spoil it for everybody.
Yeah,
so.
23 deaths in the last 3 years caused by dangerous dogs, so something had to be done. Do you think it's a good move or not? Let us know your thoughts.
OK. Greg Dewhurst, let's find out what the weather picture is going to be like.
Hello there, good morning. We've got a 3-way split across the UK today. Frosty start in the north, wet across Wales, northern England, cloudy in the south. And we can see that nicely on the chart for the rest of the day. The rain really set in across parts of Wales, northern parts of the Midlands into northern England right through the day, turning increasingly heavy as we move into the afternoon. Sunny skies for Northern Ireland, much of Scotland. There will be hazy sunshine here. A chilly day to come here. Across the south, mild but rather cloudy, some brighter breaks allowing temperatures to lift to around 14 Celsius. In the north, around 7 to 8 Celsius generally. Into the evening time, the rain continues across parts of Wales, northern England, but it just slowly starts to push its way into the North Sea. Clear skies across Northern Ireland and Scotland will allow temperatures to fall below freezing here and a patchy frost to form. Met Office warnings for rain last right through the night, so there could be some tricky driving conditions if you are travelling through into Tuesday morning. Temperatures under the cloud and the rain generally holding up well above freezing. So a great start for England and Wales. Outbreaks of rain and drizzle continuing to slowly push away eastwards. Frosty, sunny start for Northern Ireland and Scotland. Here it will stay dry for much of the day. Elsewhere, it slowly starts to brighten up from the west, but generally staying cloudy and temperatures a little lower than they have been, 9, 11, 10, 11 Celsius. In the sunshine, 7 or 8 further north.
Thank you, Greg. Well, it's back. The Great British Giveaway is here again, and you could be our next big winner. There is an incredible, how much?
18,000. We've increased the cash win this time. So if you fancy a chance of winning it, here are all the details you need to enter it.
This is your chance to win £18,000 in tax-free cash. That's like having an extra £1,500 each month for the next year. And if you're thinking, I'd never win something like that, listen to the moment we told Phil from West Yorkshire he'd won our last Great British Giveaway.
Phil, I've got some really good news for you. You're the winner of the Great British Giveaway.
You're joking. That's brilliant news.
For your chance to win £18,000 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB02 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 23rd of February. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Good luck.
This whole Middle East situation escalating again. The weekend saw more hostilities, drone attacks, US involvement, and President Trump said we're on the verge of World War III.
Yeah, we'll be speaking to Tobias Elwood in just a few minutes' time.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria DiPiero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News. Every Wednesday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions when Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer go head-to-head in the House of Commons.
We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show.
Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else.
We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride.
Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse.
It's news, but it's this close to entertainment.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The American President Joe Biden has blamed Iranian-backed groups for an attack that killed 3 American troops in Jordan.
Yeah, 34 service personnel were also injured in that assault on a US base near the Syrian border.
Now, it's the first time US servicemen have been killed by strikes in the region since Hamas's October 7th attack. It has sparked fears of a conflict escalation, with former President and leading Republican Donald Trump warning we are on the brink of World War III.
And the Foreign Secretary, Lord Cameron, has tweeted saying he strongly condemns the attacks by militia groups against US forces and urges Iran to de-escalate in the region.
Let's get the views now of former chairman of the Defence Select Committee. We say good morning to Tobias Ellwood.
Good morning to you.
Good morning. World War III, on the verge of it. What do you think?
These are strong words, and we need to perhaps reinterpret them. It's going to be a world at war rather than World War III compared with World War II. A world where we see multiple conflicts that the West cannot control or contain, no longer is the major stakeholder to be able to put these fires out. And this is an example, as you were describing, of how instability continues to expand and escalate in the Middle East with more and more nations and non-state actors, some of these militant groups in Iraq and Syria participating as well. So we're all going to watch very carefully what the United States response will be. A lot of pressure domestically, don't forget. It's an election year too. Republicans are calling for something very robust, but it has to be measured as well, because otherwise there could be a risk of miscalculation, a risk of escalation. But it also hinges too on what goes on in Paris. We're trying to sort out the core of what's where they started on the 7th of October, as you mentioned, of whether we can get an agreement there between Hamas, Gaza and Israel.
But Tobias, it's also an election year here. And is there that temptation? I mean, we saw what happened in 1982 with Mrs. Thatcher getting involved in the Falklands and the bounce effect there was with that. I think a lot of people are worried that we are being drawn into a conflict that not only they will say is not of our making, it is nothing to do with us. What would you say to that?
It's very important that any Prime Minister takes the nation with them to explain any military action, any military intervention. Why we stepped forward in the Red Sea was because that was affecting our economy, as the shipping, particularly gas coming to the UK that keeps our lights on, was rerouted around Africa. That has knock-on economic consequences. It shows the symbiotic relationship between our security, not just around Britain, but in further places such as the Middle East, and our economy as well. That's why we've joined the American coalition and others to protect that shipping. And as we see, it's becoming more and more dangerous. But there's a bigger picture here that we failed perhaps to grasp over the last year because of our risk averse or complacency, I would say, since the end of the Cold War. Then our competitors, our adversaries are starting to team up, form alliances, particularly Iran, that's using its proxy influence across the region in the Middle East. And we've not contained that. We've not actually prevented that from spreading, and now we're seeing the results of that. So the United States response now will be very, very interesting indeed. Does it just strike back at those militant groups that Iran supports in Iraq and Syria, or does it go further and attack the IRGC targets inside the same area, or indeed Iran as well? I don't think either Iran or the United States want an all-out war. But as I was saying, you could easily see miscalculation trigger something much, much larger indeed.
Yeah, and a lot of people listening to what you're saying, hearing what former President Trump has said, even our own Foreign Secretary, Lord Cameron, at the beginning of the year, talking about, a really worrying year ahead in terms of geopolitics, will be very concerned about what could potentially happen here. Whether or not you want to make those world war comparisons or not is separate. But General Sir Patrick Sanders talking about bringing back conscription, the fact that we are frankly absolutely not ready for any sort of war. And we've got Boris Johnson over the weekend saying that he would sign up to serve king and country. Do we need to do more to get people to step forward, because there is a real risk to our freedom, frankly?
Well, just to place into context, General Sanders, I think it was the mindset of preparing Britain to be in a better space to recognise just how dangerous this new era of insecurity we've entered actually is. Like I said, there has been a complacency since the end of the Cold War. We've slimmed down our army, our air force, our navy, and now we're putting ever more pressure on them to keep our nation safe, working with our allies. So it's right that we take stock of where we are. We increase our defense posture because we have entered a sort of 1937 period now where, as I mentioned, we're seeing new alliances form. They are rearming. The West doesn't have a cohesive policy yet, a strategy on what to do with Iran or indeed Russia and China. And also you have international institutions such as the United Nations unable to hold errant nations to account. This is the danger that we have now. And then add on to that the introduction of new technology that wasn't around in 1937 that allows non-state actors, as we saw in this attack on the American base, to then participate and with increasing lethality. So lots of questions, geopolitical questions, but bigger strategic questions. And going back, if I may briefly just say, what is Britain's role in here? We are a nation that steps forward, perhaps when others hesitate. That's who we are. That's what we do. That doesn't mean they say we do all the heavy lifting, but we have convening power, we have soft power as well, and we try and look for the longer-term solutions, including the immediate tactical responses as well. That's what Britain is good for or good at, and that's what other nations expect us to do. That's why we step forward.
Selwood, thank you very much indeed. We've got to leave it there. Appreciate your time this morning. A quick romp through the sports news with Paul Coit. And Paul, I'm just looking at the Marcus Rashford situation. Dropped for the cup tie against Newport yesterday. And what is happening there? Eric Ten Hag is saying it's an internal matter.
Well, he's saying it's internal matter because they're saying it's illness. The story was that Marcus Rashford flew to Belfast. Is it a place for nights out, Belfast, do you think? Is it a place where you're going to just be quiet and train?
Not that I've noticed.
I heard that too. Because you'd settle down and you'd train hard, wouldn't you?
Well, why Belfast? Has he got a friend in Belfast or something?
It's Rosean Williams. And he plays for Larne because he played... He was good friends with Marcus going back years.
Larne are a very interesting club. You know, they have got a pitch that is on a slope.
Have they? Well, how much is it? Like
it's quite...
Really?
You play uphill or downhill.
So what do you want to play?
And they became league champions as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you just touch the ball and
Inver
it rolls. Oh, right, OK, fine.
Must bring you sometime.
Well, I very much like that. Yeah. On the downhills.
Anyway, we digress.
So not that we've ever done that before. No. So when it comes to Marcus Rashford, so he's gone over there, he's had a Wednesday night out. He was given a couple of days off, along with the rest of the team. Then Thursday night, he was seen in a nightclub. And then Friday, he reported ill for training. I don't know whether... Do they do that in football, where it's like, I'm not feeling very well, I don't think I'll be in today?
But the trouble was he was photographed out at a nightclub.
That's one thing, being extremely famous, Marcus Rashford, and he was seen out. So Eric Ten Hag was asked about it, and he just said he was ill. It's an internal matter, and it's something I will deal with. And you just think, come on, Marcus. You know?
He has a lot to do to rebuild, I think, a lot of faith with the Old Trafford faithful.
I think so.
With that one. But he seems to be losing to me last year, 30-odd goals this year. 3.
Did you see the Newport fans? You know, they often held it. I hate those signs when you get kids holding up a sign, please can I have your shirt?
Yeah.
And then you get kids run up. It just drives me crazy. So Newport fans held up a sign with Marcus Rashford, please can we have your week's wages? So I thought at least, you got to ask, haven't you? 350 grand. That's better than a shirt, for crying out loud.
OK, my friend, got to leave it there. Okay. Thank you very much indeed. Paul Coit.
Still to come, a monkey escapes a wildlife park and decides to roam around in a Scottish village. That's making the news next.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News. Every Wednesday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions when Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer go head-to-head in the House of Commons.
We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel. In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there.
with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show.
Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else.
We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride.
Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse.
It's news, but it's this close to entertainment.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Going through the papers now. We've got Christopher Biggins this morning. Love to see you, Biggins.
Good to see you, Eamonn.
Dawn Neeson. Thank you. Dawn, Rwanda today, another Rwandan day and another Rwandan delay ahead.
Yes, deep joy for everybody. It's the government game of ping-pong between the House of Commons and the House of Lords. This bill was the Safety of Rwanda bill, which is the government declaring Rwanda a safe place. Passed in the House of Commons, now gone to the House of Lords, who are going to water it down, send it back to the House of Commons, and that's going to carry on for a while. Meanwhile, we have more people crossing the channel, taxpayers' bills for hotels keeps going up, everybody keeps getting frustrated, and the question is, will a plane ever take off to Rwanda with any migrants?
Surely it's a legitimate debate, though, whether or not Rwanda is safe, when we've just learnt that we've just sent granted asylum to a number of Rwandans that have come in.
I know, the irony of that at this time is not lost on anybody. It is ridiculous. We don't know why those particular 4 Rwandans were granted asylum. It might be something on a more personal level. We just don't know. But Rwanda, it has been declared safe by our government now, Isabel.
Not by the Supreme Court, though.
Not by the Supreme. It's just details. But the House of Lords, I mean, certainly the Lib Dem House of Lords are threatening to water it down as well because they're not happy with it. So this is going to go on and on and on. It's just... And will it actually be a deterrent? Because that's what we want, remember. We want this to be a deterrent. Will it actually deter people from trying to get across that channel?
Another boat this weekend, 300 and something people came across.
Yeah,
it's not going to be a deterrent at all.
Well, it seems that way, Christopher. It seems that way. As for Rwanda, I think people don't even know where Rwanda is. They don't know if it's in Asia or Africa.
You know what really annoys me, Eamonn? Speaking as one of the journalists that has actually been to Rwanda, I covered the genocide there. I went went and talked to the kids in the orphanages after that appalling situation. I kept in touch with one of the ladies running the orphanages. She died recently, bless her. It is the most beautiful country, and the people there are mostly very, very lovely. And there's an awful lot of things said about Rwanda that I just think, hold on a minute, that actually sounds quite racist, to be honest with you. You know, it's not the hellhole that everybody thinks.
No, it's not to say it's not beautiful, but I mean, it's got a repressive regime.
They just had the odd genocide.
Yeah.
That's all. It doesn't make them a bad.
That was in the 90s. That was quite a while ago.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of
genocides going on now.
Well.
Chris, here's a situation. We're going to talk about what it was called a base jumper here, and this is in Thailand. And this guy who died, sadly, Nathan Oddison, he was a skydiver, and he gets up the top of this block of flats. He's got a chute and whatever, but it doesn't open. It all goes wrong.
And there's a terrible film of him at the top, you know, ready to jump. Everything going well, and he says, right, here we go, 3, 2, 1, jump. And that was the last he spoke, because the next thing he hit a tree and hit the ground and died instantly.
Why did they do this?
I have dreams like that, or should I say nightmares? Do you have that nightmare?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
What was that? I missed that.
I have nightmares of that happening.
Falling?
You know, just falling to my death.
That's sexual.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've heard
I
that,
definitely don't have that dream. No, that's
I definitely don't have that dream.
Just you,
well, you have to tell me in the break what it means.
Exactly.
But it is everybody's worst nightmare, isn't it? And these people, they like the adrenaline, they like sort of tricking their brains that they are able to defy death, but things go wrong.
And it's like people who go under the ground, you know, to get thrills by, what do they call it? You know...
Burial.
What? No, burial, no. You know, when they go under...
Potholing.
Paving and potholing.
I've got no patience with potholers because, you know, they then want to be... behave, you two. They then want to be, you know, rescued, and people put their lives at risk to try and rescue them.
So what are you
that's what
saying, that
David Blaine did.
We just don't do any adventure sports?
No.
Well, there's adventure and there's adventure. I do find it very difficult to get in someone's head. This guy's 33 years of age, that he would do this base jumping. Often, do they have permission to do this stuff?
No, I don't think they do they?
Yeah.
What's the definition of a base jump? Does anyone? I don't know. Does it mean you're jumping off buildings?
Jumping off a solid thing. It can be it can be a building
rather than out of a plane.
Yeah.
Got it. Should we talk about this headmistress and these Ofsted inspections of schools, and I suppose almost the legacy, really, of what has happened in the wake of her taking her own life?
This is headmistress Ruth Perry, who took her own life in November 2022. She was head of Caversham Primary School in Reading in Berkshire for 13 years, a school that had been rated good or very good. Was suddenly in an Ofsted ruling suddenly branded inadequate for a very minor safeguarding issue. So there's been a cross-party Education Select Committee report looking into what's going on here. And the problem here is, Isabel, it's that Ofsted, which is the watchdog, if you like, just brand schools a one-word rating, so it's inadequate, it's good. And this is part of the issue here. And the coroner at Ruth's inquiry into her death did say that the Ofsted report was partly responsible for her taking life. She had no mental health issues. And it was the fact that her school, which was actually a very, very good school, the parents love it, the kids love it, there was no issues, was suddenly branded inadequate.
But yeah, but you get branded these one words on I think it's about 5 different areas, and any parent can then look up the Ofsted report for each school. I know this because my kids just recently moved school, and the school that my daughter was going to had just been downgraded. So I went on to
find out why it was downgraded.
Exactly. And so I could see where it was doing really well. It was absolutely fine on safeguarding. They had a few problems with adjusting the curriculum to phonics. And, you know, I think we can oversimplify the story almost, not you, but, you know, society, by saying that this is all about the one-word use in Ofsted inspection reports. Actually, it keeps it very simple for parents to get a sense of what... And there is the information there if they want to look into it.
I mean, this is the situation now, though. They are going to change the one-word ruling, so you don't have to make the effort like you... Because because, I mean, you're a good mum, you would make that effort. But a lot of parents can say, oh, inadequate, I'm not sending my child, without actually looking into the reasons that school is branded inadequate. So they are now going to ditch the one-word rulings and actually have more of an explanation as to what is wrong or right with a certain school.
I mean, the absolute terror when an Ofsted inspection appears at a school. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. They're there for sort of 2-3 days and the head teacher virtually sleeps in the school for the duration.
In Ruth's case, they said it was very intimidating and almost bullying, and that was part of what the coroner said.
Right, we've got a bit of footage now, and this is an escaped monkey. Yeah, it's an escaped monkey. So let's have a look at this. So this is from a Highland Wildlife Park, and it was then spotted away 2 or 3 miles away in Kincraig.
Oh, trying to get some nuts there.
A snow monkey, it's a common term, but he escaped, and then he was found feeding off a bird table. Yeah. And his daughter called the father and said, "Look, Daddy, look what's in the garden," and there he was. And people have been told not to approach him because he could be dangerous.
And this is in Scotland, is it?
This is in Scotland, yes. And he looks very sweet, doesn't he?
It'd be quite nice to have some monkeys pottering about in the Scottish Highlands.
Yeah,
Not
but
quite sure what that would do to the
monkeys. I think they're quite spiteful.
Yeah.
You've got to be very careful. They look lovely, don't they? And you know.
And what's happened? Did they catch the monkey?
Not yet, I don't think.
Oh.
No.
No, it's still at large. It was only yesterday.
Oh, right.
That it escaped.
So we've got from a monkey to a 2-year-old monkey, a British boy thought to be the youngest person ever to reach base camp at Everest.
And this is what I wanted to talk about our extreme and adrenaline sports for, because this marvellous little boy, toddler Carter Dallas, the youngest person ever to reach Everest Base Camp. He's with his mum and dad. He was carried up there in mum's backpack, and it's 17,598 foot above sea level. Mum Jade, as I said, carried him up there. Dad Ross, 35. And the altitude sickness kicked in round about sort of like 12,000 feet. And mum and dad are both saying that little Carter actually was better than all of them, didn't get altitude sickness whatsoever. The family are from Glasgow and they flew to India, visited Sri Lanka, Maldives, mate. And what an amazing experience, this little boy. To actually, there's a brilliant picture of him in the paper there, sitting at Everest Base Camp. What really lovely...
Do you think?
Yes.
I don't know if it's the right place for kids to be going.
Why not?
Well... We
2 years old?
Yeah.
So he didn't get altitude
He didn't
sickness.
get altitude
How did they know? He couldn't speak. You know, they don't know.
If someone's... I used to go... I know you're going to hate me for saying this, Eamonn, but I used to do adrenaline sports. I used to go mountain climbing and potholing and caving. I didn't do base jumping. But I used to go mountaineering, and it's the best feeling in the world is being up there in the mountains. And believe me, you know when someone's got altitude sickness, no matter how old they are, you can tell.
I do think, though, that Everest Base Camp is becoming busier than Brighton Pier.
Everest Base Camp.
And if everyone's bringing their kids along, you know, all the other stuff, you're going to need some soft play while you're there.
I don't think it's going to turn into Blackpool.
Well, you
Isabel,
never know.
I mean...
You never know.
But Dawn, you did the marathon this weekend.
Well, I didn't do the marathon. I did a marathon. I was raising money for prostate cancer.
Well done. Where did you do that?
I just did it along the banks of the Thames. I did it all by myself, and it was more of a stagger than a run. It was like a fast walk most of the time.
How long did it take you?
It took me just over 6 hours, so I wasn't running at full pelt. I wasn't doing a full...
Well, well done you.
Yeah,
well done.
Right, thank you.
How do we sponsor or support you?
No, I'd make a donation. I mean, sponsorship, you know, but it's a Prostate Cancer UK because 3 people very close to me were all diagnosed with prostate cancer at the same time. So, gentlemen, if you're out there, you're a certain age, and certainly if you're black, go and get yourself checked. Very important message.
OK, good message there. Biggins, I spotted this story in the papers this morning, and actually I was chatting about this with my producer, whose sister is a professional ballerina. But I don't know if you've ever been to the Manchester Opera House.
I have.
But there was bloodshed at a performance of Swan Lake.
Yes.
Apparently, a man complained about a woman making noise and thumped her on the arm. And in the interval, the husband of the woman then attacked said complainant, and this resulted in a broken eye socket and blood all over his face at the ballet.
Yes, well,
What's going on in society now?
It's the ballet.
No, but I mean, has that ever happened in the history of ballet?
But people get very sensitive about being told off, and you know, I can see it from both sides. You just want to say, mind your own business, or the woman may not have felt she was making noise, or whatever. Some people who just are very interfering.
But it is annoying. You go to the theatre because you want to see a play or a ballet, in this particular case, and you sit down and it's all lovely, and then suddenly you're aware of someone eating, you know, next to you or 2 seats away, and it's so annoying, or slurping a drink, and you think, why can't they? This is the theatre.
I know. Why people think the theatre is a place to eat?
Well, sorry, it's not the people, it's the theatre think it's a place to eat.
Yeah,
because they're making money.
Yeah, they're pushing the food.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything else. So
Chris, darling, you were at the theatre last night, weren't you?
I was. I'm going to talk about it in the last section.
What did you go to see?
I went and saw Sarah Jessica Parker.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Plaza Suite.
Plaza Suite, yes.
Right, okay. The papers. Oh, I look forward to hearing about that, Biggin.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed,
See you
Christopher
again.
and Dawn. Let's get the weather update. Greg Dewhurst.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. We've got a 3-way split across the UK today. Frosty start in the north, wet across Wales, northern England, cloudy in the south. And we can see that nicely on the chart for the rest of the day. The rain really set in across parts of Wales, northern parts of the Midlands into northern England right through the day, turning increasingly heavy as we move into the afternoon. Sunny skies for Northern Ireland, much of Scotland. There will be hazy sunshine here. A chilly day to come here. Across the south, mild but rather cloudy, some brighter breaks allowing temperatures to lift to around 14 Celsius. In the north, around 7 to 8 Celsius generally. Into the evening time, the rain continues across parts of Wales, northern England, but it just slowly starts to push its way into the North Sea. Clear skies across Northern Ireland and Scotland will allow temperatures to fall below freezing here and a patchy frost to form. Met Office warnings for rain last right through the night, so there could be some tricky driving conditions if you are travelling through into Tuesday morning. Temperatures under the cloud and the rain generally holding up well above freezing. So a great start for England and Wales. Outbreaks of rain and drizzle continuing to slowly push away eastwards. Frosty, sunny start for Northern Ireland and Scotland. Here it will stay dry for much of the day. Elsewhere it slowly starts to brighten up from the west, but generally staying cloudy, and temperatures a little lower than they have been, 9, 11, 10, 11 Celsius. In the sunshine, 7 or 8 further north.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Coming up at 8 o'clock, that old Rwanda bill's returning to Parliament. We'll be discussing that in just a moment, and we'll be talking about whether or not the country is safe for refugees. Stay tuned to Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News. Every Wednesday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions when Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer go head-to-head in the House of Commons.
We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show.
Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else.
We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride.
Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse.
It's news, but it's this close to entertainment.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there. The time fast approaching 8 o'clock this Monday morning. Very good to have you on board. Eamonn and Isabel here. Breakfast on GB News.
And leading the news this morning, the government's Rwanda bill's returning to the House of Lords today. Yet migration shows no sign of abating, as GB News can report 350 people crossed the channel this weekend alone. We'll be debating the future of Rwanda in just a moment.
President Joe Biden has vowed to retaliate after 3 US service personnel were killed in an Iranian-backed drone attack in Jordan. Earlier we spoke to the former chairman of the Defence Select Committee, Tobias Ellwood.
Instability continues to expand and escalate in the Middle East with more and more nations and non-state actors, some of these militant groups in Iraq and Syria participating as well. So we're all going to watch very carefully what the United States response will be.
Disposable vapes to be banned in a bid to protect children's health, along with a crackdown on cigarettes. Earlier we spoke to Health Secretary Victoria Atkins.
Number of children that have taken up vaping has trebled, and so we have listened to the concerns of mums and dads and the wider community, and we are going to be bringing forward a prohibition on disposable vapes, because we know those are the vapes that children tend to use.
2 teenage boys stabbed to death in Bristol over the weekend after an FA Cup match was suspended because of violence. Have we become a nation defined by lawlessness? Your views?
And Paul Coyte's here with all the sport, including some exciting news from Hyderabad.
Well, there is. I've got so much sport. I feel like Dickie Davis in the world of sport here. We've got cricket, we've got FA Cup, and this FA Cup tonight. We're covering the Super Bowl, we have tennis, we have cliff diving, and you know what, Grapple fans, we may even have some wrestling. Well, that's what Dickie Davis would have said.
Well, certainly Greg Dewhurst has been grappling with the weather.
Hello there, good morning. There is a 3-way split in the weather today. Find out all the details of the weather where you are coming up in the programme.
Thank you very much to all of you who've been getting in touch this morning on a whole range of topics, not least the situation in the Middle East. Brian says, I'd argue the war makes a lot of money for a few and death for a lot. Rachel says, people do not understand it is not just about the Middle East, but about the world. The world should be able to use the Red Sea without fear of attack. And Paul says, I very much agree we should bring back national service as standard and conscription where necessary. Unfortunately, I'm unsure how this would work in today's world.
Right, well, top story this morning is that we understand that 350 people crossed the English Channel over the weekend. That takes the total since January to over 1,000.
This comes as the House of Lords is once again debating the government's Safety of Rwanda bill later this afternoon.
Meanwhile, 4 Rwandans have been granted refuge over fears of persecution, despite the Home Office's claim that it is a safe country. So is it? Let's find out now, because joining us to debate this, Simon Danchuk, former Labour MP, who says it is safe.
And human rights lawyer Shoaib Khan, who says the country simply isn't. Good morning to you both. Let's start, first of all, with you, Shoaib Khan. I'm presuming that you will point to its human rights record, the problem of torture, the oppression of journalists within the country, all of which have been concerns flagged by the Supreme Court here in the United Kingdom.
Yes, good morning. Yes, exactly. I mean, I think factually, legally, obviously, firstly, we have the Supreme Court judgment now anyway. So I think, I mean, it should really be beyond doubt now. You know, that's the highest British court, you know, what they say, we should be accepting that. I can't see, you know, why they would have any reason to find against Rwanda or find against the bill if there was any way that they could find it to be safe. So that's the first thing. But secondly, all the things that you mentioned, those are facts. Those are not things, I mean, as far as I know, I don't think even Rwanda has been disputing those facts and those incidents as well. What we've seen is, you know, almost exactly the same deal that we have with Rwanda now, or would have if it actually happened, is something that Israel did with Rwanda just a few years ago. And almost, I mean, I believe the figures are 0 now of the people who remain in Rwanda. Most of them were pushed out of the country. They were forced to cross the borders to other countries. Others left because the life there was just unbearable for them. They had to leave to other countries. And so for all these reasons, and even particularly looking at how refugees have been treated there in the past, there have been incidents when the authorities, you know, once I believe the issue was the quality or the quantity of food being provided to them. Once they were protesting against that, and live fire was opened on them, you know, and some suffered injuries. So I think, you know, we have had quite horrendous incidents. And as particularly as Eamonn just mentioned now, about, you know, we're actually granting refuge or asylum to Rwandan nationals in the UK. So obviously in that case, we accept that Rwanda isn't safe for even those Rwandan nationals. Well, so to be pushing or sending other people there from other countries, I think, you know, that is a dangerous step.
Shoaib, what we're going to do now is speak to Simon Danchuk, who joins us in the studio. Simon's a former Labour MP, he's a political consultant now. Simon, the reason why you're so interesting, amongst the many reasons you're so interesting, you're married to a Rwandan, and you have a home there. Is this the country that you recognised? How safe do you feel in Rwanda?
It's an exceptionally safe country. That's the reality of it. I've been there dozens upon dozens of times. I was there a couple of weeks ago. I'll be there in a few weeks' time. It's an incredibly safe country. I've taken my children there on more than one occasion. I feel safer in Kigali in Rwanda than I would in parts of London. That's the reality of it. It's very well policed, very well organised, and a very well-run country.
But it's interesting. I mean, Shoaib Khan there was saying that even the fact that we talked about its human rights record, its use of torture, its oppression of journalists. I mean, it's all very well to say that you've had a good time and felt safe there, but presumably you haven't spoken out against President Kagame.
Well, I've spoken to many, many hundreds of people in Rwanda. Paul Kagame, the president, has the support that only British politicians could dream of in his country. He's very popular, extremely popular. I've met with many journalists over there. I've met with politicians over there. So I have a very rounded view of what's going on in the country. The reality is that the United Nations actually sends refugees from Libya into Rwanda so that they can be looked after. This is a country that looks after refugees. It has a reputation for doing that.
But what would it do with those refugees, Simon? I'm interested, you know, once you find yourself there, and bear in mind that most people couldn't hit it with 3 darts on a map. As I understand it, I think I'm right in saying it's smack bang in the middle of Africa, isn't it, the continent of Africa?
Yeah, more or less. It's just to the east of the centre. That's exactly right. And it's a landlocked country. What you would learn about it is that it's quite conservative and it does take its defence very seriously because it's been threatened by some of the countries like the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, which borders it. So there have been tensions there and they do take their defence very seriously. But it's a very well-run country. People are very safe there. There is absolutely no doubt about that. In terms of Shoaib's point on this, he mentions that the Supreme Court has sovereignty. It's Parliament that has sovereignty in the United Kingdom, and they've decided, quite rightly, that Rwanda is a safe place to send illegal immigrants who are coming here and shouldn't be coming here.
Shoaib Khan, can I just ask you, we've had Michaela Wrong on the programme a number of times, who's written a great deal about Rwanda in the past and has actually faced death threats for doing so. She commented on something that that Simon mentioned there about his significant popularity within the country. I mean, I think he won the last election by 99%. She thought that was highly suspicious. What's your view? Are they free and fair elections?
No, I mean, I think the figures speak for themselves. Obviously, Simon says, you know, that support that people, you know, in the UK and I'm sure elsewhere can only dream of. But I think probably because the figures aren't all that correct or accurate. I think we would really have to be, you know, quite naive to believe that those are fair and free elections. And the point, you know, that Simon's making generally as well. I'm just going around, everyone seems to be supporting the president and, you know, but doesn't that just show that everyone is absolutely terrified of speaking out against him? I'm sure, you know, however beautiful the country is, however well run, people would have some concerns. But if no one is able to express their concerns, I think that just shows
nonsense. The people in Rwanda, there is no doubt about it. President Kagame is exceptionally popular. He is more popular than any British politician would ever be, and that is just a fact. I suspect you haven't been to the country, or if you have, you haven't spent very much time speaking to the people there. The reality is he's exceptionally popular, and we don't have to decide as a nation whether we're sending people to a highly democratic country or one that runs its elections in a different way to us. We just have to decide that we can send them to a safe country, and Rwanda is a safe country. I've read Michaela Wong's book and I don't rate it, and I've said that publicly, actually. There's a lot of inaccuracies in it.
A final thought from you, Shoaib Khan, and we have to leave it there.
Well, if it is safe, then why are we granting refuge to Rwandans? And those are Rwandans, their country born there,
that says more about
there,
the Home
and
Office.
those are the people.
That says more about our immigration system than it does about whether they should get refuge in this country. We let Albanians into this country, and that's not a country that's at war. Germany doesn't even let Albanians in.
That's the whole point. You don't have to be at war
so the system
to have a genuine fair there. So you don't have to be at war to have fair. That's the whole point. That people who speak out, the 1%, then if the elections are accurate, that 1% who votes against, they're in trouble.
None.
Oh.
Well, that's left you speechless.
I don't know if he heard. Listen, we have to leave it there. Simon Danchuk and Shoaib Khan, I don't think you're going to agree on this one, but really interesting to air both sides of the argument. Thank you both very much.
Simon, just one final point. Would the Rwandans be getting a bit fed up with what's going on here, the procrastination, how things are being delayed here?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, Eamonn. Actually, I think they've been very patient in trying to help the UK, because that's how they see it. You know, they don't have to do this deal. I know there's some money involved, but as President Kagame said relatively recently, listen, if this isn't working, we'll give you the money back. So it's not about the money, it's about that country being a refuge for people who are seeking asylum. It's as simple as that. But they are getting frustrated, I'm pretty sure.
OK.
Thank you, Simon Danchuk. Thank you very much indeed.
And we're going to focus on the Middle East now. The US President Biden has blamed Iranian-backed groups for an attack that killed 3 US service people in Jordan.
34 troops were also injured in the drone attack on the American base near the Syrian border. It's the first time US servicemen have been killed by strikes in the region since Hamas's October the 7th attack. It sparked fears of a conflict escalation in the region, with the former president and leading Republican candidate Donald Trump warning that we are on the brink of World War III.
Well, in a post on Twitter, the UK Foreign Secretary Lord Cameron said he strongly condemns the attacks by militia groups against US forces and urges Iran to de-escalate in the region.
Let's go to former NATO commander Rear Admiral Chris Parry. Chris, just really interested in your take on things today as to where we're at and where we're heading to with this.
Well, good morning, everybody. Yes, this is a significant escalation because Jordan up until now has been, if you like, a safe area for Western troops. There are about 3,000 US troops based in Jordan. The post that was attacked is in the extreme northeast of the country on the junction with Syria and Iraq. It monitors very much the trade that goes on between Iran and Syria and Hezbollah. Quite a lot of the munitions that go to Syria and Hezbollah pass nearby, so the Americans are able to monitor it. And I suspect that's got something to do with why the base was hit. It's also the base for American special forces operations into Iraq and Syria when they need to take some action. It's a significant escalation by Iran. Any suggestion it's nothing to do with them is ridiculous. All these groups are coordinated by Iran. And in many ways, it reflects the instabilities and insecurities within Iran. They've got a few problems internally. So they've got a demographic pressure from their young people. You've got a succession crisis because Ayatollah Khomeini is getting older and more infirm. And I suspect their nuclear program is not running to time. So they're projecting outwards at the moment. They're using their proxy groups, Hezbollah, Hamas, and this group, which is Harakat Hezbollah al-Nuqaba, which is a branch of Islamic resistance, to actually project power against America. And the ultimate aim is to destabilize and destroy Israel.
But Chris, how far dare the USA go with this? I mean, would this involve an out-and-out direct strike against Iran?
Not at this stage. I think there will be a significant escalation. What I think the Americans have to do is, I'm afraid, take disproportionate action against these sorts of things. At the moment, they're taking it on the chin. And I'm afraid to say my own experience in that region is if you continue to allow them to do this, they'll establish a new normal where there's continual violence against US and Western interests in that region. So they have to hit back very hard against the perpetrators of this and also hold Iranian assets and personnel at risk. I was reading just now that the Iranians have actually withdrawn some of their Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps personnel from Syria and Iraq in anticipation of a retaliatory strike. But we have to hold Iran at risk here and make them pay the penalty. Otherwise, they're simply going to multiply these attacks through their proxies across the region.
I don't know about you, but I've lost count of the number of people this year alone who've said to me, are we heading into a really serious, possibly global war again? It certainly feels as though there is a level of anxiety in society now. Not only have we had General Sir Patrick Sanders talking about bringing back conscription, but we're hearing, as you say, about the situation with Iran and its weapons-grade uranium. What does all of this mean for us, in your view?
I've been saying for about 5 years that we are confronting an axis of autocracy that consists of Russia, China, Iran and North Korea. And they're acting in concert against the free world at the moment. We're seeing Russia push on Ukraine and by implication onto Western Europe. We're seeing China all over the South and East China Sea. Iran, of course, is destabilizing the Middle East in its own interests. And I think you'll see North Korea really getting aggressive against South Korea anytime soon, to tell you the truth. If you join up the dots, there's quite a lot of potential for a world war there if the free world doesn't actually stand and resist this. It's, we're in a situation where almost anything could trigger joining up those dots. I spoke with Patrick a year ago about the need to actually boost our forces. The reason is that our opponents can see the bottom of our locker, both in terms of our capabilities, but also our personnel as well. If I know all I have to do is fight no more than 180,000 troops in the United Kingdom, I look at the war in Ukraine and say, yeah, I can easily deal with that. Unless we've got a link to the rest of our society, and our society is mobilized against this sort of aggression, we're not going to prevail.
So there is some truth in what Donald Trump is saying in terms of us being on the brink or possible brink of a World War III?
Yeah, but I'm afraid the escalation is being undertaken by these totalitarian regimes, Iran, Russia, China, and North Korea. What is making it worse is that we are more concentrated on things going on internally, and we need to face outwards and say, look, there is a real threat to the world system, and we're seeing it. We've mentioned it already. The international system is under severe threat in the Red Sea right now because essentially a piratical group, the Houthis, are trying to interfere with international traffic, on which the free world depends. Unless we take action, we're going to find ourselves totally overwhelmed around the world by these totalitarian regimes.
Rear Admiral, good talking to you. Thanks for your take. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Chris Parry is a former NATO commander and Royal Naval officer.
I'm going to get a check now on the weather with Greg Dewhurst. Good morning, Greg.
Hello there, good morning. We've got a three-way split across the UK today. Frosty start in the north, wet across Wales, northern England, cloudy in the south. And we can see that nicely on the chart for the rest of the day. The rain really set in across parts of Wales, northern parts of the Midlands into northern England right through the day, turning increasingly heavy as we move into the afternoon. Sunny skies for Northern Ireland, much of Scotland. There will be hazy sunshine here. A chilly day to come here. Across the south, mild but rather cloudy, some brighter breaks allowing temperatures to lift to around 14 Celsius. In the north, around 7 to 8 Celsius generally. Into the evening time, the rain continues across parts of Wales, northern England, but it just slowly starts to push its way into the North Sea. Clear skies across Northern Ireland and Scotland will allow temperatures to fall below freezing here and a patchy frost to form. Met Office warnings for rain last right through the night, so there could be some tricky driving conditions if you are travelling through into Tuesday morning. Temperatures under the cloud and the rain generally holding up well above freezing. So a great start for England and Wales. Outbreaks of rain and drizzle continuing to slowly push away eastwards. Frosty, sunny start for Northern Ireland and Scotland. Here it will stay dry for much of the day. Elsewhere it slowly starts to brighten up from the west, but generally staying cloudy and temperatures a little lower than they have been. 9, 11, 10, 11 Celsius in the sunshine, 7 or 8 further north.
Thank you. Got a deal for you now. What would you do with an extra £1,500 per month?
Ooh, that'd be nice.
Not only per month, but for a whole year.
Well, you could win that in our brand new Great British Giveaway. £18,000 up for grabs this time, and this is how you could win it all.
There's an incredible £18,000 in cash to be won in the latest Great British Giveaway. Totally tax-free cash that you could do whatever you like with. That works out to be an extra £1,500 to play with each month for a whole year. Money to make each month just that little bit better. You could put it towards monthly treats, save it for a rainy day, or just use it to take the pressure off in 2024. For your chance to win £18,000 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB02 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 23rd of February. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Good luck.
Still to come, 2 teenage boys stabbed to death in Bristol over the weekend. Have we become a nation defined by lawlessness? Getting on top of that after this.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria DiPiero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News. Every Wednesday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions when Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer go head-to-head in the House of Commons.
We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show.
Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else.
We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride.
Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse.
It's news, but it's this close to entertainment.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
A murder investigation has been launched after 2 teenage boys died following a knife attack in Bristol.
Aged just 15 and 16 years old, the boys were attacked in the south of the city on Saturday night. Police say a group of people fled the scene by car.
As a result, a 44-year-old man and a 15-year-old boy have been arrested and they remain in custody.
Well, GB News' South West of England reporter Jeff Moody joins us now. Good morning to you, Jeff. Presumably this is a city in shock. What more can you tell us this morning?
Well, absolutely. There are 2 teenage boys that should have been walking to school around now. Sadly and tragically, they're not. But their colleagues and their fellow students are. There are lots of people this morning making a stop at this temporary memorial that has been erected. There are flowers and floral tributes and candles as well just behind me. People have been coming throughout the morning to pay their respects and then heading off to school and work. Well, it was confirmed fairly recently that the names of the 2 boys that died are Max Dixon, aged 16, and Mason Rist, who was aged 15. Now, they were attacked by a number of people in Knowle West, where I am now, at about 20 past 11 on Saturday night. They later died of their injuries in hospital. Well, Avon and Somerset Police said that the attackers fled the scene in a car. As you mentioned earlier on, they arrested a 44-year-old man and a 15-year-old boy. story, but they are still looking for others. There are further suspects, say Avon and Somerset Police. They're being sought amongst the group that police believe are responsible. Well, police have begun a murder investigation. They're particularly appealing for anyone that was on a bus that went past the scene of the crime on that Saturday night. It went down Ilchester Road here. So police are appealing to anybody that was on that bus to come forward, as they might have vital information. There's also a temporary police station that's being set up in the neighbourhood so that anybody that remembers anything or has seen anything, however insignificant it might appear to be, is being urged to go to that police station, that temporary police station, to talk to officers there. Avon and Somerset Police are very quick to remind people not to speculate about this. This is now an ongoing double murder inquiry, and so police are saying, you know, please try and avoid social media, please try to avoid putting up pictures on social media, anything that might first of all upset the families involved or further upset the families, and of course more seriously anything that might prejudice a case if and when it comes to court. But at the moment it's a case of a shocked community on that very, very initial first stages of grief.
Awful. Jeff, thank you very much indeed.
Let's get up to date with what's happening sports-wise. Paul Coit, you've had a bit of a touchdown in American football.
Well, kind of, yeah. I mean, it's the Super Bowl's coming up in a couple of weeks, because being huge fans of the NFL, as we are,
indeed,
I thought it would be nice to mention that. And it's the San Francisco 49ers beat the Detroit Lions, and that was in the first one. And then the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs, this is Travis Kelce, whose girlfriend is Taylor Swift.
Of course, yes.
Taylor Swift. So, yeah. So, look, this is whipping fans. That's what they do over the States. This is what sports fans in America do. There are 49ers, and they just do a lot of whooping and shouting. So there we are. That's them.
We do chanting, don't we?
We do a bit of chanting, a little pointing, hopefully nothing too nasty that we did see over the weekend, but they just do a lot of whooping, and that's it. So that's and the Super Bowl is going to be in Las Vegas. What a place to be for the Super Bowl.
Well, that's
First
true.
time it's ever been in Vegas.
Wow.
Going to take over the whole city.
They do have a football ground, do they?
When you say football ground, you mean soccer or
no
football? Yeah, they do. Yeah.
They have it all.
They have everything you want.
And if they don't, they'll
have an Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, and if not, and if you don't want to go, just go see Tom Jones, or Elton John, or something instead.
Stop.
Yeah, that'd be the answer. Cricket. I've got to mention the cricket.
Oh yeah.
The cricket has been unbelievable. India do not lose in Hyderabad. They don't lose in India. It just doesn't happen. And England have gone out there with their new style of cricket, and they've gone out and beaten them. And not only did they beat them, it was so unexpected going into the last innings as well. Ollie Pope scored 196. India then set 231 to win, and then they were bowled out for 202. And Tom Hartley, who is a young spin bowler who has gone out to their backyard and taught them a lesson and got 7 wickets. Are we going to sit down and watch cricket properly, Eamonn, you and me, during the summer?
Oh, yeah, happy to do that.
I think that'd be good.
Yeah, happy to do that,
Just to go through the whole thing, and Isabel as well.
You know they've got these bars now where you can go and play an over of cricket. And they have basically a projector screen, and then the ball fires at you. I went to one on Saturday.
Did you?
Yeah, had a go at cricket myself.
How did you get on?
I got 4, whatever you call them.
Wickets?
Runs? Yeah, I was rubbish. My husband got like 45 in the same over.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was rubbish. You can adjust the speed of the ball.
Yeah.
And they set me up and they put me on 5, which is the fastest speed. So they were like coming at me.
Oh, that's not
And,
bad.
I was trying to hold it like a tennis racket instead of like a cricket bat.
Yeah. And were they bouncing up around your head?
Well, the really good, the kids that were there, the really good ones, were whacking them, and it hits the ball behind the pad, because you have to hit these panels. They have the football ones as well, don't they? But anyway, I think you guys would like it.
It's interesting you said that, because Ollie Pope, this is what's been brilliant about Ollie Pope. He's got this new range of shots, and a lot of old cricketers would look at that and just go, oh, you can't be doing that. Yeah. So the ball's coming, and they paddle them. So the ball's coming up, and he's put it forward, and he's just like...
That's exactly what the kids were all doing.
That's what they're doing. They're doing Ollie Pope these days.
There you go.
Can we go there? I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
I made a film for the BBC holiday programme once, and about cricket in an English village. And it was lovely. It was very good, and they put me in my whites and all that sort of thing.
Nice.
And I mean, I've never played cricket in my life before.
Yeah.
Don't know anything about cricket.
You were brilliant.
And it was sort of natural. I held the ball.
How did I know?
Right, we're going to have to put this to the test, Paul.
I bowled, right? So I bowled.
Yeah.
And delivered this very nice. What is that?
Well, it doesn't matter what you're fast, you swing volley. You know what, though? I've got to...
No.
You were like this. That was perfect.
No, let me just finish the story, right? So I ran and I bowled, and I ended up flat on my face. The trouble is, I forgot to let go of the ball.
Oh, no.
So the thing is, I held onto the ball, and then I went beyond the point of no return, and my face and everything hit the ground.
So
my whites became very green.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
There was an Arsenal footballer called Paul Davis. And you remember Paul Davis?
Yeah.
Anyway, I played in a charity cricket game. This is years ago, and he was playing for Arsenal. And people were going, oh, and he was in bat, and it was Lord's Tavern, and someone was about to bowl. And people were going, oh, you're going to watch him. He's a Spurs fan. You're going to watch him. He's a Spurs fan. Anyway, I ran up to bowl. The ball slipped out of my hand, and it flew. They call them a beamer, which means it didn't bounce, and it flew past his ear like that.
Yeah.
And the look in his face, and I'm like... I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it because everybody expected that to go off. So it can be a very dangerous game.
Sure.
It can be a very dangerous game.
Well, just don't stand near me at the golf tee. That's the whole thing.
I know about that one.
Paul, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Still to come, Sarah Jessica Parker made her West End debut last night. Biggins was there. He's going to tell us all about it. But remember, if you want to go, you may have to dig deep to get a ticket. Stay with us for more on GB News Breakfast.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News. Every Wednesday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions when Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer go head-to-head in the House of Commons.
We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show.
Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else.
We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride.
Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse.
It's news, but it's this close to entertainment.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are looking at what's been making the headlines in Making the News this morning with Christopher Biggins and Dawn Neeson. And Dawn, we're going to start with a horrid story, front of the Independent, and it's the sort of thing that actually stopped me in my tracks as I was looking through this morning. And this is about, well, frankly, mostly sex abuse within the NHS.
It is horrible. Yeah, this is our it's an 18-month investigation by the Independent newspaper, and they have investigated NHS mental hospitals, trust mental health hospitals, and they have found that there have been, between 2019 and 2023, 20,000 reports of sexual incidents, and that includes 800 rapes, Isabel, of women. They also find that there are still mixed sex wards when that was made illegal a decade ago. It's a very, very damning report on the state of NHS mental health care in this country, certainly residential care.
These chancers, these perverts are absolutely everywhere. I mean, recently, over the past couple of years, I've heard more and more stories of health professionals. I'm talking about dentists, I'm talking about physiotherapists, making inappropriate suggestions to their staff all the time. And they have this godlike complex that they think they can get away with it. And I think they behave in a way that certainly I don't think would be tolerated in other fields. But
I don't know if it's new or if people are getting better at speaking out about it, because when all of this Me Too movement came out, my mum suddenly said to me, oh, when I was in my 20s, I just went to the GP for, I don't know, a sore throat or something, and he groped her.
Yeah.
And she never reported it, told anyone.
I'm going to need you naked to examine your...
And I think there were a lot of people, probably a lot of women, who just kind of didn't know what to say and were so mortified.
A great friend of mine, though, his mother was in hospital and she was 94, and she was raped.
What?
94 years old.
Oh, my God.
And this is about 15 years ago.
Was that by a fellow patient or...?
No, by
a medical professional?
A nurse or a...
And was that case brought?
No, because in those days it didn't happen like that. They didn't believe the patient.
No. Are you safe in a hospital or in a mental institute in this country anymore? Just don't know. Can we talk about the King, Biggins?
Yes.
It's being reported overnight that they've extended his stay at the London clinic. Initially, he was just booked in for 2 nights, and there's been some concern that this could be worrying.
Well, I think it's his prostate he's gone in for, and it's not an easy operation, but also it's quite common now. Thankfully, you know, they can find out what you've got very easily if you do the tests, which everybody should do the tests. I've just done it.
Absolutely.
Good for you.
And it's marvellous. It's easy. It's no problem. And once you do it, you find out what's happening, and you can recover well. But he might, you know, he's 76 years old, 75 years old, and so you know, it's not an easy time. And but he's being looked after by Camilla. And he popped in to see Kate because she's in the same hospital.
Yes, that's quite sweet. They should be next door to each other.
They should, shouldn't they? A nice little suite they should have. But I think he's got to take it easy. That's what it is. I mean, I think he's got to take it easy anyway, because being king is not an easy job. I mean, you know, and they're both in their 70s, and they've got to be careful.
Well, Camilla's been saying constantly, you've got to slow down.
Yeah.
You can't count, because he is a bit of a worker. I mean, everyone goes, oh, they're pampered, they're privileged, but it's a 24-hour, 7 days a week job.
It is.
And he is a workaholic, and he just won't stop.
But he's there to serve. He's there to serve. That's what he does.
Yeah.
What do you think about London in general? Islington Council in North London charges electric car drivers extra because their motors are heavier. I just think you can't win here. You think you're doing the right thing, you get an electric car, but then they say to you, but it's heavier, therefore you're going to have to pay a bigger tax because of this. So drivers of heavier cars will have to pay higher parking charges. So they're saying, now, I put it to you, that is not why we have holes in the road. We have holes in the road because of utility companies, because the repairs are really bad, and because of articulated lorries that have taken all the freight off the railways and deliver all of this around our streets and whatever and bust up our roads. But it's an easy target in this war against motorists.
And I think you're right, Eamonn. It is a war against motorists. You're right. I mean, the fact that a few people are driving heavier cars is nothing to do with the state of our roads. The state of our roads are an appalling state, and we're paying more and more in taxes these days. Where is this money going? But, I mean, there's very much... I mean, I don't even drive, but the war against motorists is getting worse. It's almost impossible to drive in London now.
It is.
Did you ever think of moving out of London, Biggins?
Yeah, we are, funny enough, and we're going to look at a house in Somerset at the weekend.
Well, that'll put the price up, not
or lower it.
But, you know, it's interesting, because we have an electric car, and does it say which council is charging?
Well, Islington, this one is, and...
probably Camden.
Camden.
Let's see, London Council, Lambeth as well.
Because, interestingly enough, if you park in Westminster with an electric car, you can park for 4 hours for £1.60.
Wow.
And you can extend it for another 4 hours and pay another £1.60, so you could be there 8 hours for £3.20, whatever it is. And so they are good. All these things will go eventually because, of course, you know, this is an incentive to people to go out and buy an electric car.
Well, it wouldn't make me buy an electric car with those charges coming your way.
No, I know, exactly.
Plus, they're still very expensive. Most ordinary people can't afford an electric car.
Do you know what I wish they did? I wish they made a charge, or rather, I wish that everybody who came into the M25 would give up their cars and then see how all the councils will have no money left. Because they are supporting all these councils in a huge way.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's very, very bad, I think.
Right, very, very bad. Was Plaza Suite very, very bad last night? You went to a press night.
A gala night.
A gala night. Sarah Jessica Parker stars in this together with her husband Matthew Broderick.
Yes, I mean, it was a very star-studded occasion. I've never seen the whole of the area of the Savoy Hotel was red carpeted. So that was quite something. It didn't rain,
like
thankfully.
A ski slope, rather.
Exactly, it really was. And so that was exciting, and all the photographs were taken, what have you. Oh, there we are, look. People going in front of the...
that looks like James McAvoy, does it?
Is it?
Looks like it, but I...
Yes, it could
not
be.
your little man from Top Gear.
I don't know.
I think that's an A-lister.
Biggins, where are you? Where's
I know there is some foot. Oh no, that's not me.
No, that's not you either. No.
But anyway, it was interesting. Neil Simon's Plaza Suite, which is a 1968 hit. They did this in America last year or the year before, and it was a great success. Sarah Jessica Parker is fine, very, very good actress. I was on holiday in Mexico some years ago, and we went out to the pool one morning, and there was kiddies' toys. And I said to Neil, oh, let's go across the other side. We don't want to sit next to the kiddies' toys. And
the kiddies.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
So, anyway, then we realised it was Sarah Jessica Parker's children, and she was there with her husband. So, anyway, I thought, oh, what a shame, we could have had a chat with her. But anyway, I was swimming in the pool and with her, and we started a chat. And we were talking about things, and I said, I'm just reading Rupert Everett's new book, Red Carpets and Other Banana Skins, and it's fabulous. She said, oh, I'd like to read that. So when I left the hotel, I gave her the book, because I finished it. And I was in New York a year later, and she saw... We met at a club there, a restaurant club, and she said, oh, thank you so much for that book. And I thought, I couldn't believe she remembered.
Wow.
I think she's quite a nice woman.
Yeah.
Of course she didn't. She's an actress.
No.
You don't actually think she read it, do you?
Eamonn.
How did you actually...
Could you forget
How did you
Biggins?
introduce yourself to Sarah Jessica Parker? What? Did you walk up and say, my name's Biggins? How would you say?
In the swimming pool? I think I did, yes. And nearly drowned.
I bet
But anyway, they're great, and it's one review with very bad review today. It's got really 4 stars, 5 stars all the way through. And it said they even applauded the set. Well, we used to do that years ago, and the set is fantastic. It's a suite in the hotel, and it's beautiful. And I think quite rightly, designers should.
I mean, it was Neil. Who was it? Neil Simon. Who wrote Plaza Suite?
Neil Simon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does it stand the test of time? I mean, it's a 70s era type
Yeah,
thing.
it's a little dated, but it's fun, and they make it fun, and they do some wonderful business, especially her. She was terrific, I thought.
But does he get much... I mean, I feel like he's always eclipsed by his wife, Matthew Broderick.
But he's got top billing in this. I wonder if she's been brave enough to actually say, darling, you have top billing. What do you think?
I mean, the headlines and all the pictures are of SJP today.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, but he's wonderful. If you remember the producers, he was fantastic in that film.
I kind of wanted to go and see this because it's about, I think it's a 50-something couple who are trying to save their marriage, isn't it? They check into a hotel suite. So that made me want to go and see it for obvious reasons. And then you told me how much it costs.
Yes, £300.
395.
395.
Basically 400.
I think you get something else there. I think you get a night with her.
Oh.
For 395. No.
An audience with.
An audience with.
Than, you know, it's not indecent proposal.
No.
It begins.
No, I mean, it is expensive.
It's pricey, though. It prices out most people, to be perfectly honest.
But it is sold out, and they've extended the run by another 2 weeks. I mean, it's amazing. Where all this money is coming from, heaven knows.
Yeah, well, lucky old you that you got to go.
Yeah, it was great.
Tell us about dogs here. Dogs are turning into hellhounds because owners treat them like humans.
Yeah, this is not you and Maggie. I know you love your Maggie. This is basically a new breed of woke owners. The word woke in every story, and they're treating their pets, their dogs, like human children and babies, and it's not good for the dogs, basically. Animal behaviourists reckon this soft approach is the reason more bad dogs are on the march, because they're treated without. Well, dogs are pack animals. They need to have a leader, and if you're treating it as a baby, dressing it up, putting it in prams, etc., etc.,
not failing to discipline.
Then it's not giving the message to the dog that, you know, you are in charge, and that's why more and more dogs are behaving badly. You know, and it's all right if you've got a cute little teddy bear dog like the one they've used in the paper here, but I wouldn't try, you know, with an XL bully or something like that. That could be messy.
Well, it's natural, isn't it, to baby your pet? I mean, a lot of people sort of... I mean, we've got a little kitten, and if I could count the number of times recently my husband said, he's just a cat, he's not one of our children, but I love him almost as much as my children.
Well, I think that, and that's the other thing, is that people are not having relationships or in a relationship, and they find the next best thing is to have a pet.
Yes, no one to criticise them.
No,
you exactly. You have to improve yourself to be in a relationship with a cat or a dog.
And I think you have a great relationship sometimes with your dog.
Yeah.
Isabel, you want to talk about the rail strike?
Oh, yeah, I think we've kind of not talked about this enough, really. I mean, a lot of commuters, whilst we've been on air this morning, will be getting up, looking at the timetables this week and thinking, what on earth? My boss wants me back in the office. This is a nightmare. Yeah. So on the days they're not striking, they're working to rule, absolutely no overtime. So today is going to be a reduced service. Tomorrow, full strike. I mean, talk us through what we've got for the next 9 days, Dawn.
I've just completely given up trying to use trains full stop, and a lot of people are. This is the problem. This is the front page of the Daily Mail. It's an exclusive. But the problem here is that even though there are strikes and there are works to rule, the rail companies have a duty to provide a requirement to provide at least 40% of normal services. And they're not doing that, Isabel. That's the problem here. Meanwhile, the rail bosses, the chiefs in charge, are still paying themselves huge bonuses for offering us a shoddy service. So not only...
Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Well, exactly.
Time and again.
So not only are the strikes, you know, the workers walking out causing the issues and working to rule, but the bosses running the company are doubling down on it by not providing the service they are legally bound to. And meanwhile, all the ticket prices have gone up.
So the law hasn't worked, basically.
No, it's not working. No.
I do love trains, though. I have to stand up for them. I do think they're rather wonderful. But the other day we went somewhere like Woking, and it was obviously we had to take a train, and the first-class carriage, because I went first class, I know bones about that, and the first-class carriage was full. And I said, as I got in, I said, how many people have paid first class in this? And it was silence.
Oh.
Because none of them had paid first class. Yeah.
Oh, and did anyone
Did they upgrade?
No, because they know that there's no guard going on from London to Woking.
Yes.
And they all sat there smirking. But I'm glad I stood up for myself and said...
Did anyone vacate a seat?
No, they did not.
Did anybody know who you were?
Yes.
Of course they did. How can you not know?
He gets such biggins here.
Of course they did.
Thank goodness you didn't get out at my town anyway.
No, exactly. We've never been asked there.
Sarah Jessica Parker recognised him in his Speedos.
Unforgettable, and the budgie
Said to her
smugglers.
husband, who's this old buffoon round me now? in the pool game. What about Biggins? What do you make about Rishi Sunak? Today's the start of his fasting day. Well, it was 5 o'clock yesterday. 36 hours he goes until 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. So what do you think about that? He's only allowed to have water or a non-calorie drink like black coffee.
Well, I think it obviously does him good, and he likes it, and he's very fit. It's not for me, I'm afraid, because I
don't know he's very fit.
Well, he loves a Peloton workout to Britney Spears, doesn't he?
Yes, and he looks fit. I mean, he's small.
He looks thin, that's what he looks.
Yes, thin. But no, it's not for me. I enjoy my food too much. I mean, this morning when I got up, I had 4 Weetabix.
4?
Yeah.
Do you remember when David Cameron said it's a bit like Weetabix? 2 aren't quite enough, but 3's far too many?
Yeah, that's true.
And he got lambasted for
I'm
that.
afraid I've never found that. I agree with you. 4. But Weetabix have got smaller.
They have. You're right. They have.
I'm actually shocked.
And 4 is Neil shouts at me. What do you want 4 for? I have 2 now and 2 later.
Do you put sugar on them?
No, Canderel.
Oh, right, OK, well, that's quite good then. But
I put honey on mine.
Yeah, that's nice, honey, yeah.
The science behind the fasting diet is it forces your body to burn fat more efficiently.
No, I'm sure it's very good for you. I'm sure that is absolutely
And
the
I
way.
think the benefit of it is that on the days you're not fasting, then you can have your 4 Weetabix guilt-free. You can do whatever you want 5 days a week. In 2 days.
Well, we have our 4 Weetabix anyway. That's not going to stop me.
But you wouldn't need to pay the price for it.
You're not paying the price because they're smaller.
I'm not talking about financial price, I'm talking about medical price.
I'm talking about the...
Are you trying to say that we're unfit?
I'm just saying, Rishi Sunak is, you know, very slight.
Just be careful what you say, Isabel.
Okay, I'm not attacking you, never. Quick, moving swiftly on. Should we talk about holidays, Biggins? It's much safer ground.
Oh,
40
yes.
seconds. 1 in 3 people plan to get away this year, many spending more on a break than in the year before.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, England is, you know, becoming very popular, and there are wonderful places to go in England. And, of course, the trouble is we don't get the weather. However, I've just been on a Aurora ship by P&O, and we were on for 12 days, and we went from Bermuda to New Orleans, and it was great.
Oh, shut up when you go.
The weather.
I met Sarah Jessica Parker in the pool. I'm on the Aurora. I'm in Bermuda.
No, come on. Jealousy is a very bitter thing, honestly.
For 3 hours sitting outside.
Right, I'm going to have to have 4 Weetabix. Going to have 6 Weetabix.
Weetabix in it.
Biggins, Dawn, thank you both very, very much indeed.
See you soon.
Good morning, Greg Dewhurst.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. We've got a 3-way split across the UK today. Frosty start in the north, wet across Wales, northern England, cloudy in the south. And we can see that nicely on the chart for the rest of the day. The rain really set in across parts of Wales, northern parts of the Midlands into northern England right through the day, turning increasingly heavy as we move into the afternoon. Sunny skies for Northern Ireland, much of Scotland. It will be hazy sunshine here. A chilly day to come here. Across the south, mild but rather cloudy, some brighter breaks allowing temperatures to lift to around 14 Celsius. In the north, around 7 to 8 Celsius generally. Into the evening time, the rain continues across parts of Wales, northern England, but it just slowly starts to push its way into the North Sea. Clear skies across Northern Ireland and Scotland will allow temperatures to fall below freezing here and a patchy frost to form. Met Office warnings for rain last right through the night, so there could be some tricky driving conditions if you are travelling through into Tuesday morning. Temperatures under the cloud and the rain generally holding up well above freezing. So a great start for England and Wales. Outbreaks of rain and drizzle continuing to slowly push away eastwards. Frosty, sunny start for Northern Ireland and Scotland. Here it will stay dry for much of the day. Elsewhere it slowly starts to brighten up from the west, but generally staying cloudy and temperatures a little lower than they have been. 9, 11, 10, 11 Celsius in the sunshine, 7 or 8 further north.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Just asking you to stay with us after the break. The Shadow Paymaster General, that's Jonathan Ashworth. He'll be talking about Labour's plans to woo big business here on Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News. Every Wednesday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions when Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer go head-to-head in the House of Commons.
We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There we go, 9 o'clock on a Monday morning. Very nice to have you on board. 29th of January, Eamonn and Isabel here until 9:30.
You're very welcome. Here's what's leading the news this morning. The government's Rwanda bill is returning to the House of Lords today, yet migration shows no sign of abating as GB News can report 350 people crossed the channel this weekend alone.
We'll be debating the future of Rwanda throughout the programme this morning and reflecting your views on it. Joe Biden, meanwhile, has vowed to retaliate after 3 American service personnel were killed in an Iranian-backed drone attack. That was in Jordan. Earlier we spoke to the former chairman of the Defence Select Committee, Tobias Ellwood.
Instability continues to expand and escalate in the Middle East with more and more nations and non-state actors, some of these militant groups in Iraq and Syria participating as well. So we're all going to watch very carefully what the United States response will be.
Disposable vapes are to be banned in a bid to protect children's health, along with a crackdown on cigarettes. Earlier, we heard from the Health Secretary, Victoria Atkins.
Number of children that have taken up vaping has trebled, and so we have listened to the concerns of mums and dads and the wider community, and we are going to be bringing forward a prohibition on disposable vapes, because we know those are the vapes that children tend to use.
2 teenage boys stabbed to death in Bristol over the weekend after an FA Cup game was suspended over violence, have become a nation defined by lawlessness.
And Greg Dewhurst has your weather.
Hello there, good morning. There is a three-way split in the weather today. Find out all the details of the weather where you are coming up in the programme.
Lots of you getting in touch throughout the programme this morning. Thank you so much for all of you taking the time to do that. Lots of people talking about the vape story doing the rounds. You just had the Health Secretary there saying that they are introducing a ban on disposable ones. Sam in Barnsley says they should start banning flavoured vapes like they did with menthol cigarettes.
I know people who make their own menthol cigarettes. They get non-menthol cigarettes, obviously, and then they insert a menthol thing into them. It's like a little operating theatre that they have.
Well, this is the fear that people go underground with these things, don't they, and sort of do DIY jobs. Andy says, my kids have vaped despite us not smoking. I see kids vaping all the time. And there's also the environmental impacts. It sounds like he's in favour of this ban.
OK. Right, so we'll cover anything you have to say between now and 9:30. Plans to win the next election with their 5 missions. Labour are today announcing their government would host an annual business and investments summit. Shadow Paymaster General Jonathan Ashworth joins us now. So was this like Davos in Daventry, or what are you planning?
I hadn't heard of it in those terms, but that's not a bad phrase. We might steal that, Eamonn. Look, we want to work with the business community hand in hand, because we know that's the way in which you create good, well-paid jobs across the country. It's how you drive up living standards. It's how you drive up growth and spread prosperity. And we're really delighted that this morning, the head of Iceland Supermarkets, Richard Walker, a former Conservative supporter, has switched his support to Labour because he believes Keir Starmer has the vision and the plan to change this country, take this country forward after 14 years of the Tories. And I just think you're going to see more and more people say, you know what, the Tories have had 14 years, they're tired, they're divided, it's time for change, enough is enough. And we're really pleased to have the endorsement of Richard Walker this morning from Iceland Supermarkets, a really significant business figure.
And who else will be attending? I'm just seeing a list of those invited. A number of these large businesses facing their own, I suppose you could say, challenges at the moment. We know it's tough in the business community. I'm thinking of Airbus at the moment, but you've also got Goldman Sachs, AstraZeneca. What sort of message are you going to be giving to them, and what can they expect as businesses under a possible Labour government?
Well, your priority in the foundation always has to be economic stability. And that means being clear and disciplined with the public finances. Because we saw, didn't we, 14 or so months ago, when the Conservatives were irresponsible with the public finances, effectively ran the economy off a cliff, led to turmoil on the money markets, a run on pension funds, and so many of your viewers, so many GB News viewers this morning, paying more on their mortgage as a consequence of the recklessness of the Conservatives. We'll never play fast and loose with the public finances. And offering stability is really significant. It's really important because it gives the business community confidence, and it allows them to take the long-term decisions to invest, which helps grow your economy, create good paid jobs and raise living standards.
Can I ask you about Kate Osamore? She's a Labour MP. She's had the whip removed by the Labour Parliamentary Party. And this comes just a week after it was announced that the Labour Party, looking back on its special measures when it was serious concerns about anti-Semitism within the party, the author of that report said that most recommendations had been implemented, but that more needs to be done. And then today we have the Jewish Labour movement saying that actually what Kate Osamore has said was inappropriate and offensive. Have the Labour Party got a grip of some of the problems that it's been facing in recent years?
Well, I think the proof that we are gripping this problem, that we've torn that evil, that anti-Semitic approach, which we had members that have been kicked out of the Labour Party. They're not welcome in the Labour Party, those people. And the fact that Kate Osamor has been suspended and there's an investigation shows you how seriously we're taking this. She's apologised, however, but there will now be an investigation. And it's important that investigation proceeds appropriately, that it's all looked into appropriately. But we take anti-Semitism extremely serious, and we'll have no truck with it.
Jonathan, we've got to leave it there. Look forward to seeing you in Daventry. Thank you very much indeed. Jonathan Ashworth for the Shadow Paymaster General. Joined us now our political editor Christopher Hope with his take on today's events so far. Christopher, good morning.
Morning, Eamonn. Morning, Isabel.
Good morning.
It's a big day today. There's lots of... It's all kicking off in Toryland at the moment about this ban on disposable vapes. The government's wondering, or is trying to push ahead with this ban on the disposable vapes, but the right is worrying about it. For many on the right, this ban is part of the reason why they worry about Rishi Sunak. They wonder why a Tory government is banning these disposable vapes and indeed almost banning cigarette smoking for anyone born after 2009. They're concerned about it, but it seems to almost symbolise their concerns about the PM, Rishi Sunak.
It seems he can't bring in any legislation without some sort of opposition from the right of the party at the moment, and it will only add succour to those calling for an election. I mean, why do you think he is so determined on this particular policy? We know that the Rwanda policy has become totemic for him, but this thing on smoking is also a bit of a legacy issue for him.
Yeah, the timing is dreadful. It allows his critics on the right, notably Liz Truss, his predecessor as Prime Minister, to say, what are we doing here? The problem with the whole Tory party is they are 20 points, 25 points behind Labour in the polls. And that means that the leader is unstable because they're so used to replacing leaders in the past 4 or 5 years. They know they can do it again if they want to. And that's a problem. Why is he doing it, Isabel? Well, simply, I see it as a legacy issue. I think for him it's like the gay marriage legislation passed by David Cameron when he was Prime Minister, which really infuriated the grassroots of the party. It's a similar idea. It's a way to say, look, in my time in office, I was there, I did something significant for the whole country and for future generations. But critics say it hasn't worked in New Zealand, upon which we think the idea is based. They've stopped it, and they are now ring-fencing cigarette taxes and spending that on tax cuts. An idea which many on the right in the UK may agree is a good idea.
Can I also just ask you, we were just speaking, you'll have heard, to Jonathan Ashworth there, and he was, I suppose you could say, bragging about managing to recruit the boss of Iceland, Richard Walker, who's appeared on this programme many times. He left the Conservative Party in the autumn last year, refused to say where he was going politically, but he's now come out and done a big interview saying that he really thinks the future is with the Labour Party. How much of a blow is this for the Conservatives, and how much of a boost to Sir Keir Starmer?
Well, it's a big boost for Keir Starmer. He's a significant person in the world of retail. He's often out on the TV and radio talking about retail issues. He's plugged into the kind of market, Iceland mums, if you describe it that way, which Labour want to appeal to. The Tories, I think, have priced in the defection of Richard Walker to Labour for about 6 months because he had been around trying to be a candidate for the Tory party at the upcoming election, and that soon changed. I think it looks good for the Labour Party. It's a big name. He'll be wheeled out on successive programmes to talk about why business can trust Labour. And so I think it's a significant coup, no question.
This morning, my values and principles haven't changed, and whilst the Conservatives have moved away from me, Labour has steadily moved towards the centrist, pragmatic views that I've long held. A lot of Conservatives will find that painful.
And of course, the Conservatives, Christopher, they try and hold on to this theory that they are the party of business, and a lot of business are really fed up with them, with their stealth taxes, their loan charges, their IR35s, and how they clobber business with red tape. So maybe the chickens have come home to roost, as it were, with that one. Just finally, before we let you go, were you aware that Rishi doesn't eat on a Monday?
No, I interviewed him for our channel, Eamonn and Isabel, about 3 weeks ago in freezing cold weather in Kent. He seemed on quite good form there. He didn't seem testy, as I would if I hadn't eaten for a full day. But yeah, apparently it's part of his faith. It's abstaining from food is part of his faith. And Monday is the day when he doesn't eat. I mean, I'm not sure I could cope with that.
Wouldn't suit the likes of us,
We'd get hanger, wouldn't we? Hanger. Thank you, my friend. We'll leave it there. We go to Andrew and Bev, who are here at 9:30.
Morning.
Could you do without eating on a Monday, starting the week?
No. How would you manage without your sausage roll, Eamonn?
I couldn't. I eat in the morning because I tend to feel ill.
Right, I don't eat. Yeah.
Do you know what, though? He would say that your body does acclimatise to it, and on the days when I don't, I often, because of doing this job and getting the kids out to school, and I often don't eat until we come off air during the week, and you do get used to it. And then I kind of realise how hungry I am, and then I eat a huge bowl of something and then want to sleep all afternoon, which is counterproductive, isn't it?
It is extraordinary. 36 hours. It's to do with his Hindu faith. It's time so we're going to talk to somebody about that, about why so many people in the Hindu faith do think it's good to fast, good for the mind, good for the body, and presumably they're offering up their suffering.
And then he can buy those little tiny suits that he wears.
And they are very tiny. They don't fit properly because they appear to be halfway up his leg.
Yes, but deliberately so.
But deliberately so. It's
very
called
expensive.
Fast.
Yeah,
darling. And on that sort of issue, we're talking about drinking as well, not just eating, because has this been Britain's driest ever January?
Yeah.
Hard on the pubs. I can see you sighing, Isabel.
I just got through my last dry January weekend.
Have you maintained it?
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to Thursday.
I bet you don't feel any better. Do you feel any better?
I think I've probably lost a few pounds. It can't be bad for me.
Who told you that?
No, stop it.
Unless you replace the wine with snacks in the evening, that's the danger.
I broke it again on Saturday and I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I was at the theatre with some friends and some godchildren. I thought, I'm having a gin and tonic.
Yeah.
You know what? I can't support it because I love
I don't even
pubs.
drink, so I
cannot support dry January because we've got hospitality industry on its knees. Yeah. And we're going to be debating that with somebody that is in favour of dry January and Adam Brooks, a friend of the channel who is in Pablo.
I was in a pub yesterday, and I could see that it was the centre of the community. People met there, they came in for lunch, they brought their pets with them. And you could just see when these close, particularly if it was, say, a country pub or whatever it is, the community goes with it.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
You think of the old boy or the old lady having their one drink, reading their paper.
Dog at their feet.
Yes, it's lovely.
I know.
And they keep warm. And also the landlady knows who they are, and if they don't show up, it rings an alarm bell. It's a really important part of the community.
Where do teenagers go? Where do young people go to meet their future love? I don't like the idea of everyone sat at home online. Go and meet people in real life. We lose them at our peril.
OK, guys, plenty there. See you at 9:30. Thank you very much indeed. Just time to tell you about the Great British Giveaway, which we're relaunching again. The prize has got higher, up to £18,000, tax-free, and you can spend it however you like. So, if you fancy the chance to make it yours, here's how you do it.
We want to turn 2024 into 2020 more with your chance to win £18,000 in cash to spend however you like. You really could be the next big winner of our Great British Giveaway. Phil from West Yorkshire won our last one. Listen to his reaction when we gave him the news.
I never won a penny in my life.
Well, congratulations, you've won £10,000.
Oh my God, wow.
For your chance to win £18,000 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB02 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 23rd of February. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Good luck.
Now, with the King and the future Queen not only both in hospital, but in the same hospital, and with the King's stay being extended, we're going to get all the latest on the state of the royal family this morning with the royal author, Angela Levin. She'll be here in just a moment. Stay tuned.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Put in your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. The Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Isabel's very concerned about the King. We've been concentrating on health issues with the royal family over the past couple of weeks, and today the
Well,
news
he was
is...
booked in for 2 nights for this treatment at the London clinic, and it has now been extended. The Sun reporting, according to a source, sparking a few health concerns. So who better to talk to about all of this than the royal author Angela Levin, who joins us this morning in the studio. Fabulous to see you, Angela. You're a bit worried about this as well, aren't you?
Yes, I am worried, because you always think that they would say a little bit longer than it was going to be, so people wouldn't get worried. So if it's 3 nights, then you do get worried. And I thought just a little bit that Camilla was smiling the other days, but yesterday she seemed not so smiley. But that might have been because the time the photograph was taken. But I think when you are 75, it's very difficult to know actually how one thing can't trigger something else. Perhaps he's very tired. Perhaps he's worked so hard for so long that the body is a bit tired, and when you've had some sort of operation, then you need longer to come back again. But it's very sweet that they went to see Catherine at 8:45 when he arrived for the operation on Friday, and I think it's very touching that Camilla has ignored all the protocol that you don't go with your husband if he's a king or you're a queen, and has been to visit him several times, 3 times on the first day, 2 on the Saturday, and yesterday twice as well. So she wants to sit there and be with him. And she said to me once that one of their favourite things is when they're in Scotland, they sit by a fire, He's reading his book. I'm reading mine. Silence, and it's so lovely.
Oh, that sounds like my idea of heaven, reading together with your loved ones.
So so I think maybe she's doing that, or making him laugh. She's very funny. She's got a great sense of humour, so she's doing that. And I want to say just one thing, and that is that France and Germany have turned round about complaining about Britain and Brexit. And the reason they've done that is because of King Charles. They were delighted that he went there so soon after his coronation. And they said that the way he talked and his whole approach towards the things was so wonderful that we adore him and we don't want to have any trouble. Now, this comes from somebody very, very high up in the government. And it's the government that sends the royal family to do things on behalf of the country. And here we have a marvellous example of that. And so, although some people can dig and be not terribly nice about him, he's actually tremendously good and knows how to be with people and how to be strong.
Well, some German heritage in there as well, and he speaks fluent French, so you can see how he would be a hit there in, you know, countries that don't have their own royal families, that, you know, he sort of hits the spot.
So his #1 popularity in those two countries now, I'm told, which is actually very, very nice to know and to see.
I'm interested in your royal protocol story there about how the Queen would not be expected to visit the King more than once at the hospital or whatever. What would the benefit of that be? I'm just trying to work out why that would be.
Well, I suppose it's to avoid lots of people outside making a big... Panicking, and all the photographers. But otherwise, I think it's very strange. It's a sort of not showing your emotion, whereas Camilla will show her emotion because she loves him so much.
But any normal person would go and visit their loved ones in hospital.
Yes, they would, but you see, they never went with them, even when they went in. And only rarely would they go maybe once, if it's quite a long stay. But otherwise, they don't. They must talk on the phone. But I think this, you want to hug, you want to chat, you want all those things. And I think, good to her. I mean, she's so good. She's following all the routine.
Yes.
And what is expected of her, more so, because she's been working very, very hard the last month. And but when it comes to actually showing her caring for her husband and the King, she wants to be there with him.
And I believe he's probably expected to be continuing with his red boxes whilst he's in there, still working, but from his sick bed.
No, I don't think he can take the red boxes into hospital. I think they will be ready for him when he comes out.
OK, so complete rest from work.
And he might have some paperwork, but I think those are so confidential that they can't be taken in. I mean, if he falls asleep and they're there, you know, you don't want to risk it. I'm sure he's got protection all the time, but I think it's not done. I don't. That's not done.
Well, he changed the location for the procedure, didn't he, so that the taxpayer didn't have to pay for 2 sets of security at 2 different hospitals.
Yes.
So is it the same clinic as Kate?
Yes. I thought that, my goodness, I hope that's OK, because you can't have 2 heirs or sons of heirs in a plane. So maybe
Angela,
you shouldn't.
Got to cut it there. Thank you. Lovely talking to you. Royal author Angela Levin. Thank you very much indeed. Who you will see on this very spot every single Monday. You will see us tomorrow morning from 6 a.m.
And up next, it's Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Bev. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Hello there, good morning. We've got a 3-way split across the UK today. Frosty start in the north, wet across Wales, northern England, cloudy in the south. And we can see that nicely on the chart for the rest of the day. The rain really set in across parts of Wales, northern parts of the Midlands into northern England right through the day, turning increasingly heavy as we move into the afternoon. Sunny skies for Northern Ireland, much of Scotland. It will be hazy sunshine here. A chilly day to come here. Across the south, mild but rather cloudy. Some brighter breaks allowing temperatures to lift to around 14 Celsius. In the north, around 7 to 8 Celsius generally. Into the evening time, the rain continues across parts of Wales, northern England, but it just slowly starts to push its way into the North Sea. Clear skies across Northern Ireland and Scotland will allow temperatures to fall below freezing here and a patchy frost to form. Met Office warnings for rain last right through the night, so there could be some tricky driving conditions if you are travelling through into Tuesday morning. Temperatures under the cloud and the rain generally holding up well above freezing.
So a great start for England and Wales. Outbreaks of rain and drizzle continuing to slowly push away eastwards. Frosty, sunny start for Northern Ireland and Scotland. Here it will stay dry for much of the day. Elsewhere it slowly starts to brighten up from the west, but generally staying cloudy, and temperatures a little lower than they have been, 9, 11, 10, 11 Celsius. In the sunshine, 7 or 8 further north.
Health. Very good morning. We're just talking about what we've got coming up on the show today. It's going to be a busy one.
Yeah, are we on the verge of World War III? That's what a lot of people think. We've talked to a lot of experts about that.
And also, Rishi Sunak will be announcing this ban on disposable vapes this morning. He's going to be going to do it in a school.
Just to try to stop kids getting hooked early on. And dry January. They're saying it's the driest January of all. She lasted 2 days. I lasted about 20.
Barely.
But is it any good for us? But doesn't the hospitality need us to have a few?
It does.
We're having a debate.
Wake up to the headlines with headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Carson, this Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show, every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you,
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock.